This is what it is. This is what the show is today. It's
just 3 hours of vibes.
Yeah. Yep. We're just over here doing Night at the Roxbury and bopping to some slightly licensed music and talking about gods we don't believe in, because that is all we have in our empty, soulless, atheist lives. Hi, I'm Forrest Valkai, and I'm joined today by the wise and musically talented and may I say strikingly handsome Austin Archer.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, I'm happy to be here. I'm tired.
That's nice.
I'm tired. 2025 it's taken the wind out of my sails. It's in a way that like no other year has. Like we were truly so close, right? Like you could taste it. We were so close to being done with the Trump era of American politics, and I'm not saying Kamala Harris was going to save the country or usher in the new, leftist utopia of perfect policy, or but like we could have been done with this chapter and begun a new chapter of new conversations potentially. And it felt like we were just so close. And now it's just every day is just like a reminder that like, no, you're trapped. You're trapped here with the same conversations, with the same points, with the same old arguments. So I'm wondering if any conservative Christian has a better argument for me today. Save my sanity, please.
We were talking about this really like before the show, just right before the show started, and that's really what's shaking me up so bad. Like I was dejected when the bastard won, and I'm sad every day that we see the continued trend, the same thing we've been seeing for years and years. It's that Trump is perfect; he would never do this, and then it's very obvious he's done that thing. And then you get, well, that was good, actually. Or, well, Democrats have done worse, actually. Or any other ridiculous ass excuse. And we just move the line further and further until we realize that there is no fucking line. You know what I mean? There is no point where these cultists will stop worshiping this god. And I at least had hoped that there would be new arguments to be had. That there would be something new that could be said this go around. That would be interesting. That we could say, like, actually, here's this new concept, but no, it's still, he doesn't know how to fucking read. He's still racist. He's still sexist. He's still insane. He's still a megalomaniac. He still wants to be a dictator. He still says out loud that he wants to be a dictator. He's still a pedophile. He's still all of these things. And all we get is just more and more and more cultists leaning into it. And saying the same dumb shit. I don't know what to do.
Well, and all of their arguments in the culture war, too. It's like there's no new territory explored to be like, okay, once again, explain in a way that a secular humanist like myself can understand why two people who have the same gender should not be allowed to get married. Why two consenting adults who have the same, who have the same gender identity should not be allowed to get married. Explain it in a way where we're not making rules based off of what your religion believes, but explain it in a way that like a secular humanist can understand. And it's like, can we just get into any new territory that at least makes me stop and go, huh, interesting? Because the whole procreation thing is not interesting. It's not novel. It's not new. It's not smart. It's not like, oh, it's because marriage is about procreation. No, it's not. No, it's not.
It's not. Very obviously not.
Literally never has been. And also it's like, of course, you're leaving out infertile, heteronormative couples. You're leaving out couples who choose not to have kids. Like, of course, like it's not new territory. It's not interesting. It's not smart. So it's just this thing where I'm like, it's just like, I'm so tired of like, opening up threads and seeing someone be like, it's Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. And it's like, it is 2025. What the fuck? Are you kidding me? Like, no way. Like, no way that's your best shot. That's like, there's just no way.
Yeah, it's just fucking it sucks so bad. And like that is the biggest thing is like when you talk about that specifically, I've said on this show before and I will continue to say over and over, the arguments that we hear against transgender people today are the exact same arguments that we heard against homosexuals all throughout the late 90s and early 2000s. Right. Like when I was in high school, the exact arguments that they were having against gay marriage, word for fucking word, exactly the same arguments that we're having today against transgender people about can they have children, about can they survive on an island and make a population, about all this. I don't want them around children, they're groomers, every single bit of it is the exact same. And every single bit of it also has Nazi roots. That's a whole other thing. And like, and I see that with everything else too. When we talk about anything that Trump does, they can't grapple with any negativity towards Trump without immediately saying, "Well, a Democrat did X thing." That's it. There can never be a one-to-one comparison. There can never be a conversation just comparing apples to apples. It's the same thing as always, and I just don't get it.
To your point about the conversation, the points about trans people being the same as the ones about queer, gay people in the 90s. It's even worse though too, because at least they could make a bad faith, disingenuous argument that says that their holy book says something about being gay, even though that's like, that interpretation is up for debate, whether or not the book actually, whether the original text of the book actually said that. And then we can have a whole conversation about whether or not you are supposed to be beholden to Levitican law in the modern era. It doesn't seem like you're supposed to. It seems like every other aspect of your faith says that Levitican law was fulfilled by Christ coming and doing the whole sacrifice thing, but whatever, but it's like, at least like there is like something for you to vaguely hook your foot into when it's like, my book says being gay is bad, but there's nothing in your book about gender diversity at all. And they'll say that is the point, is that the book only talks about the two genders. And it's like, right. Okay, cool. What right. But it's just, I love when they do that too. When theists will just be like, because the book doesn't mention this thing, it means that God doesn't approve of that thing. It's like, cool. So if the thing is not in the book, you can just say that you get to just say whatever God's opinion on the thing is.
It's funny. That is exactly what I hear as well whenever we're talking about the resurrection, because a lot of people call in and talk about the resurrection from time to time. We go through the fact that Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John are 4 different accounts of the resurrection. Right. They have different conflicting information. And that is often what I hear. Well, it didn't say this in all 4 of them, therefore that's what it must have meant. Whereas in this one it said there was 1 man, and this one it said 2 men, and this one it said 2 angels. What it actually must have meant was 2 angels, and in this version they confused one of them for a dude. And it's like, anything that it doesn't technically not say is actually the word of God. And it's like, I can't handle that shit, dude.
Right.
It's gonna be a rough day. And it's going to be a rough week, and it's going to be a rough year, and it's going to be a rough few years, because Lord knows the season finale is coming up. With all the Epstein stuff that's already starting to come out, and now with these people being sworn in, and we're finally hitting the votes to actually force this, and it's gonna go to Trump, and Trump is going to veto it, and then it's going to go back into, I believe, does it go to the Senate first? I don't know, but then that veto can be overridden. It's going to be a fucking long legal battle full of bureaucracy and bullshit. But when it happens, you're going to see a lot of red hats telling you how pedophilia is actually okay, and how Joe Biden's pedophilia was worse, and therefore this pedophilia doesn't matter. And we're going to have a really weird fight then.
Well, not even we already are. We already are seeing the red hats saying, well, there's a big difference between, a 5-year-old and a 15-year-old. We're already seeing it. It's already happening.
Yeah.
And you talked earlier about all the goalposts moving, how there's just no end to there's no point that we can stick to and say, this is what you said a week ago. And now you're saying there's no point that can be consistent. So it's like the Epstein saga of just this year, of just 2025, that it starts out with well, he's going to release the list, but you guys aren't going to like it because Democrats are going to be on it. And we say, we don't give a fuck, release the list. And then it goes to he will, but it's on Pam Bondi's desk right now. And we go, okay, do it. And then it goes to, well, Democrats aren't letting us. And we go, that doesn't make sense. The Democrats don't have any power to not let you. You have loyalists in the DOJ. You have the House. You have the Senate. You have the executive branch. Like, there is no way the Democrats could stop you from doing this. Then it goes to, it doesn't exist. It's on Fox News. It's on every news outlet. It doesn't actually exist. There actually is no ledger
not a real thing
of his clients. It's not real. And
it was made up by the Democrats, who we've been telling you for years, this is the bombshell, it's going to expose them. They're actually the ones who made it up in the first place. It's all a hoax by them.
Which it's like, we can't even like stop and catch our breath to be like, wait, you guys were just saying that they were the ones stopping the release of it. Now you're saying that they made it up and it doesn't exist. And before we can even grapple with that, we got Mike Johnson going, well, actually Trump's an FBI informant and that's why he was with Epstein. And we're like, wait, hold on. Wait, what? Okay. But I thought it didn't exist. And then before we can even get a hold of that, Mike Johnson goes, I don't know why I said that. That's not true. He's not an FBI informant. I don't know. And we're like, okay, hold on. And then it goes to like, okay, let's have a vote on it. And it's like, well, the Democrats stopped the vote. And it's like, no, you guys wanted to make the voting anonymous. And they said, no, we don't want to have the voting anonymous. We want to know what every person voted for. That's what happened. And also, what are we voting on if it doesn't exist? Like, so do we all agree it exists again? Like, the amount of different times in this year that roughly like 75 million people have all in unison just changed their reality, just gone like, it's on Pam Bondi's desk. It doesn't exist. He was an FBI informant. The Democrats made it up. The Democrats won't let us. And they do it so effortlessly. Like, you just open the internet and it's like, they're all in unison being like, it no longer exists. And it's like, oh, but yesterday it did. Then you open up the internet the next day and it's like, it exists and Bill Clinton's on it. And it's like, okay. And I mean, it's insanity. It
really, and like, I remember reading it, like, it's fucking a decade ago. I remember reading studies about this, how people with like, who are really embroiled in conspiracy theories will hold conflicting beliefs and not care. And it's like, Princess Diana was killed not in a car accident, but in a conspiracy by the Russians to overthrow the government, and also is still alive in Cuba running the Illuminati. And it's like shit like that. You know what I mean?
Right.
And we hear that all the fucking time, this double think, which is just so bizarre. And I never thought growing up that I would actually see it in my real life. I remember, like so many of us did, watching, stuff about World War II, watching stuff about like great historical moments of horror throughout human history, and wondering like, how the fuck are this many people so ridiculous and so ill-informed and so deliberately going out of their way to just be painfully wrong on purpose? And now I see it. I see it all around me all the time. You're absolutely right. I fucking forgot what's actually that we have fucking, what was her name? Laura Ingraham, wasn't it? Saying that it's not like they were 5-year-olds. It's fine. Are you fucking kidding me? This is really where the bar is now. This is what we're doing. It drives me up a fucking wall. But this is a call-in show.
Yeah,
and we got calls. So,
that's right.
I will go on with it. It just drives me crazy. It's hey, if you're out there and you're watching this, we already have some callers waiting on the line, but we do still have lines open. If you are a theist, if you believe in the Bible, if you believe in gods, if you believe in Jesus, if you believe in creationism, if you do not accept evolution or the Big Bang, if you think that there are only two genders, if you think that Donald Trump is anything but a sleazy pedophile grifter who is currently controlling the government by weighing down Congress with the weight of his greasy ball sack, if you think that America's going in a good direction right now and that ICE is a good thing for us, if you think that Megyn Kelly, not Laura Ingraham, thank you so much, in the comments, if you think that any of these things make any kind of sense and you would like to call in and talk to some people who vehemently disagree with you, we'll be very nice until you're not. We're here for you.
If you think that there is a substantive difference between Megyn Kelly and Laura Ingraham, call in and let us know how we're supposed to know the difference. How are we supposed to know the difference between these two people?
two identical posts in the same white picket fence. But there's a number on the bottom of the screen, 720-619-2288, or you can use the web link down in the description if you're outside of the U.S. to call in that way. Give us your name, your pronouns, where you're calling from, and what you want to talk about, and we will talk to you. And if you don't want to give your pronouns, call in about that too, because that'd be a fun conversation for everybody. Again, number on the bottom of the screen, 720-619-2288. And we've already got, looks like 4 people waiting on the line. 3 of you are atheists, and I'm going to tell you, you're going to be waiting for a little while, because usually theist calls, once we start one, they start rolling in, and we always prioritize them. So you might be waiting for a minute, but we will try. Until then, you good to jump on to, I'm looking at the far left number, line number 5.
Yeah.
Sweet. Let's talk to Vince. Pronouns he and him. Calling in from Wallaby Igloos, who wants to talk about, well, never mind. Just as I was saying that, Vince hung up. So call back. Vince, would love
please
to
call
talk
back.
to you about creationism. Yeah, let's talk. I would love to talk to you about creationism. That would be a lot of fun. In the meantime,
see if you can convince us, Vince.
Nice. Do you want to quickly go through line number 1 really quick, just to see what that's all about?
Sure.
Okay, let's just really quickly, let's talk to John, who's an atheist, who once talked to me about the term shaman, and I don't know why. John, you were on the line with Forrest and Austin. How are you doing today?
Hey, guys. How's it going?
It's going. I don't know what you're asking me here in the call screen, so please enlighten me, and we'll see if we can help you out very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, you have a background in paganism, right? You were kind of you were brought up with a lot of different religions and religious traditions, and you also have a background in anthropology, right?
Yes, although I would not use my background in paganism as expertise in anything except for that specific flavor of paganism. As I learned live on air, it too was infected with some manner of Christianity.
Sure, yeah. So I'm wondering about the term shaman, and it kind of occurred to me, like, man, that last call's got me all riled up. So anyway, I'm thinking about the term shaman, and with that Jacob Chansley guy with the painting his face red, white, and blue, and calling himself a shaman. It just kind of occurred to me that shamanism, the term shamanism, is kind of a catch-all term for like any number of small non-European or European. I mean, some of them, like in Siberia, there are people who have animistic religions or whatever that we call shaman, right? Mm-hmm. Call their practitioner shaman. Is that a legit term, or is that just kind of like a Eurocentric like construct that we just use as a catch-all to not have to go into the details of what their actual religious beliefs are, like all these little groups of people, tribes and whatnot, living in these in these remote areas?
Yeah, I would say, as far as I understand it, it is I think you're right. It is kind of a very broad grouping term of somebody who is sort of a priest type situation, someone who acts as a medium between this world and the other, between our society and the whatever spirits, elements, whatever the case may be, depending on whatever you're talking about. It is an extremely eclectic and diverse thing. Shamanism as a concept like they're all is identified.
A lot of people, there seems to be this, it gives a general impression that they're all kind of tapped into one singular thing that has to do with, and maybe that goes back to like the whole New Age movement or whatever, but like, you know what I mean? Like it seems like it's a misnomer, and it's almost like,
I feel like shamanism at this particular moment is like the way that we talk about it in Western society probably is just a gross oversimplification, because it is something that is spread across like a lot of significant portions of Asia, some into Europe as well, certainly into the Americas. Like it's goddamn everywhere, and it does seem to be like this kind of catch-all term for that. But ultimately, there's a lot more to this that I don't know. It's not my area of expertise. I do have a background in anthropology, but certainly not religious anthropology. So that's the way that I understand it, but I am not a good resource on this, and I encourage you to Google it.
Well, thank you very much for answering my question. I'm not really sure if I should, it worth making a big deal about? The use of that term. I don't know. It just feels it makes me feel weird.
Yeah, I honestly wouldn't be able to tell you one way or the other. As far as I know, it's culturally appropriate, and it is a massive catch-all term, similar to the word two-spirit. Certainly doesn't do everything it's supposed to do, but it's good enough for people to understand, and the cultures that utilize it seem to be fine with it, and you just ask more questions of those people specifically if you want more answers, because no matter which person from which region and which ethnicity you're out talking to, you're probably going to get a different answer. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next call. Thanks so much for calling in, though. Bye. I'm glad he didn't wait for 5 hours for that.
Yeah.
Because, honestly, that's more.
Maybe we should
you'll get so much more off of Google than me.
Yeah, and maybe we should knock out a few of these other ones, too, so that they don't wait for 5 hours for... Yeah.
That's a good idea. Ollie, calling in from the frozen wastelands of Canada. Pronouns he, him, wants to talk about getting through deconstruction. Ollie, you're on the line with Forrest and Austin. How are you doing today?
Hi, how you guys doing? Hey, Austin. Hey, Forrest.
I'm all right.
Pretty good.
So Austin, I haven't spoken to you at all, but Forrest, I think, well, actually, you probably don't because you do get a lot of calls, so I'm not even going to mention that. But last week called, I was a theist, but I was in the middle of deconstruction, I guess you could say. And what I was struggling with letting go was effectively having to admit that I wasn't, there wasn't, the person that I wanted to make proud wasn't, watching me, and that I actually had to admit, I had to let them go and just move on with my life. And that was, but yeah. So that I got through that, but I actually have a few questions in terms of you, because your show right now. Sorry, I really can't speak. I'm really anxious right now. I'm terribly sorry.
Oh no, no reason to be. Austin is very nice, and I'm very stupid.
I disagree on both of them. I'm kidding. No, I agree on both of those. Actually, I feel like I can say. No, sorry, but my point was that, like you said, so your show is asking if there's a good reason to actually have faith, and I want to say that I believe that there might be for certain people and not others, even though I am a bit of an atheist, and for me the subject to that is my own mother, and I actually would like you to destroy that argument for me, because it's the only one that I can't really get by. And it's the one thing that's stopping me from really, to put it bluntly, I'm in that arrogant atheist phase, angry, arrogant atheist phase, where any mention of God just kind of makes my skin crawl. And every single time I have a conversation with my mother, especially now that my life is finally getting better, and we've been hoping for that for quite some time, every single time we're on the phone, she will end the call with, "God is giving you," and it infuriates me. But it doesn't change the way I feel about my mother. But then on her side, she's been doing really well. And the only reason she's been doing really well and actually getting better is because she's holding on to that belief, to that hope. And, well, it worked out for her. And I feel like if I were to have that conversation with her and convince her that, I say convince her. No, I'm not going to say that I know that no God exists or whatever. But say, for example, that I managed to convince her to become an atheist. I feel like she'd be losing something. And that's what's blocking me from doing that. I know what it did to me.
Right.
Sorry.
So just to summarize, you yourself are in the process of deconstruction. You do not believe in a God, but the thing that is stopping you from becoming a full-blown atheist and calling yourself this and living authentically is disappointing and hurting your mother's feelings.
I guess you could say. Disagree, yeah. The whole idea that, there's hope. You get good things out of faith, and it kind of disgusts me to say that because I hate the word faith itself, but you get good things out of it. I unfortunately have to admit that, and I've seen that myself. But
you also don't get anything. There's nothing good you get out of faith that you can't get without it, right? I mean, the things that faith does really well is it gives people comfort, it gives people answers. And it does those things when there otherwise could not be comfort or answers. It gives you a solution and a simple answer to where did I come from? Where am I going? What's right and wrong? What should I do in this situation? It helps you handle death. It helps you handle fear. It helps you handle anxiety. It helps you handle doubt. It helps you handle uncertain situations, uncomfortable situations, painful situations. Also, all of those things can be handled by really, really intense thought and by gaining a lot of emotional intelligence and by facing scary problems head on. And that fucking sucks. And that's not good for everybody. But
can I ask you a question, Ollie?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Forrest, finish your thought.
Oh no, you're fine. You're fine.
How long has it been? How long has your deconstruction process been going? How many years are you into this process?
It really hasn't even been a year. I think it actually started, I want to say, at the beginning of this year, and then it really got intense when I called last time, and it's really just, I want to say it's at its tail end now because I'm more comfortable in it now, and it was more feeling like I had lost something. Like, sure, there are parts of me that I feel like are completely gone, unfortunately, but I feel like I can still get those back and separate the religion from that. But sorry, to answer your question, I'm so sorry, but people do that all the time. It's been, I think, I'm going to say roughly 6 to 7 months.
No need to apologize. And that's what I figured. And the reason why I asked that question is because I deconstructed close to 20 years ago. And I was raised in a very high demand religion. I was raised LDS in the heart of Mormon Mecca in Sandy, Utah. And I deconstructed when I was about 19 years old. I began the process. And whenever I tell people that I don't live in Utah anymore, I haven't lived in Utah for like 10 years. And when I tell people where I'm from, one of their first questions is, were you raised Mormon? And I say, yes, I was. And then they say, are you still? And I say, no, haven't been for a very long time. And then their follow-up question is always, how is that with your family? Like, are you on good terms with your family? Because they know intuitively that like, that probably wasn't the easiest and most frictionless process. And I always tell them, well, it was the hardest thing I've ever done. And it was really tough for like 5 years. I say it was really hard for us to understand each other and to get along and to build our relationship for like 5 years. I would go home and visit, or, and there would be like big fights over ideology and theology. My parents would sit me down and want me to like watch talks that the general authorities of their church had given. And I would say, I'll watch this as long as you're okay with me responding to it honestly. Like if you're okay with me, like letting you know my honest thoughts on it. And they'd say, okay. And then I'd give them my honest thoughts and they would get really hurt and we would yell at each other and it would wind up in a big fight. And I would wind up feeling like my whole family hates me. Cause like sometimes my brothers and sisters would be there and it would be like the whole family teaming up on Austin. And I was by myself. I was the first member of my family to do this, the first member of my extended family. I didn't have any cousins that were doing this with me or friends for that matter. All of my best friends that I grew up with didn't understand it. Here I am. The reason why I'm telling you this is here I am 20 years later, and almost every member of my immediate family is more aligned with me than with the church at this point. All of my friends that I grew up with are on my side now. And it happened one by one over the course of 20 years. Like it just like slowly, like one by one, the dominoes kept falling. And I'm not saying that is like a guarantee that your mother will come around and start seeing things from your side. What I am saying is just that like many things in life, time is a great healer, and also curiosity is a great healer. And sometimes it takes people a long time to get sufficiently curious about something. I was just at my uncle's 80th birthday party, and my aunt, who is like in her 70s, came up to me. And this is a woman who I never thought would ever doubt her faith in a million years. And she said something to me that made me think she might have a new relationship to her faith than she had most of her life. And I told some of my other family members what she said to me, and they were like, oh yeah, what happened there is she wanted to understand her son, who had distanced himself from the church, and she started reading some literature to try to understand him. And that literature like took her down the rabbit hole. And I just think like what happened with my dad, what happened with my mom, what happened with so many members of my family is, in an effort to understand me better, they started reading some of the stuff that I pointed them toward, and they started listening to some of the podcasts that I listened to and things like that. And eventually, tugging on that thread long enough, one by one, they're almost like my family's like much more on my side than not now. And we all get along a lot better. And I mean, I think that my deconstruction made us ask really important questions, like, what is the tie that binds in this family unit? Is it this church, or is it our love and our respect for each other? And we answered that question with, I think it goes beyond the church. I think our love for each other is not just conditional on our agreement in this doctrine and in this ideology. And so we actually got to go, oh, our love is deeper than the fact that we share this faith structure. And that really helped us out. So all I'm really saying with that is like, there could be light at the end of the tunnel. with time, with just patience and time.
That's really nice.
If I may, sorry. I'm sorry.
I had a very different angle, and I like yours better.
I mean, I don't, and again, I don't know. I can't guarantee that, but yeah, go ahead, Ollie. What were you going to say?
No, sorry, I forgot there's a delay, so that sometimes I might just be speaking, and it's me responding to you guys a few seconds later. That completely threw me off for a second. I have ADHD, so sometimes I'll be listening, and then I'll think we're having a real time conversation where we are. But moving on. But yeah, no, I actually did have a question. When your family members actually moved on to your side, did any of them feel like, or did you feel like any of them, if that's not too personal a question, did any of them go through, I want to say, a bit of a depression, but worse than what they had when they were CS? See, because that's what I'm scared of. I'm not sure if my mother would be able to go through that. I mean, not that she's weak at all, but it's just I obviously love her, and I'm terrified, and I don't want her to go through that.
No, yeah, I felt so. My father started deconstructing at 63, and this was from a religion that he had been a devout believer in every year of his life. So he had 63 years of devotion to this ideology, and he started to deconstruct, and I felt so bad. It was the weirdest thing. I should have been excited. I should have been happy that my father was starting to see things from my perspective and understand. But I just was oh no, I took away my dad's thing. So late in the game, I took away his thing. And he never actually expressed to me that he was really, really sad or really upset. But I just was oh man, I hope he's okay. And honestly, he's fine. He's doing great. And and I think that what this deconstruction has opened up for him, it has opened up so many avenues of relationships with his grandkids that he wouldn't have been able to have without this. I have a niece who lives with her boyfriend, and she's 25, and she lives and before my dad deconstructed, he would have had a really big problem with that. He would have been she can't live with her boyfriend if they're not married. But since he deconstructed, he has a fantastic relationship with his granddaughter. And it's that's a level of that's something that he wouldn't have been available to him before. But I get your feeling of being oh, geez, I hope my mom can handle it. And I would just say people can surprise you. And they have in my life. My story has been one where really rigid people have surprised me over and over and over again.
Well, that just about honestly answers all my questions, and I don't want to take the line for too long because I know there are a few more atheists waiting. You guys want to get through them quickly, but thank you for that, and thank you very much for actually taking the time to talk to me. Once again, great talking to you again, Forrest and Austin. Great talking to you for the first time. Please say hi to Eric for me, and you guys have a fantastic one.
Take care, Ollie. Later.
Of course.
That was a great call. Yeah, I was going to go a totally different direction. Yours was much more empathetic and kind. All I was leading up to, I was giving him the benefit of the doubt when I was talking about I get that faith has its utility, and I get where it heals where it fills in these gaps, but you can do without it. And with his mom, I was simply going to ask whose life are you living, yours or your mother's? And at the end of the day, if I was in this situation, I would have to wrestle with the fact that I don't want to die sad and alone, wondering how happy I could have been if this person hadn't gotten in my way, whether I was related to them or not. And that's a very, very callous way of looking at it that I am afforded because of the life that I've lived. But I think you were a lot more compassionate than I could have been. And while I think there is value in both takes, I'm glad that he talked to you more than me.
I mean, I think, again, I would also want to just the major caveat on my thing is just because that was my experience doesn't mean it's going to be someone else's, Right. Some people's parents never come around. Some people's family members never come around,
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Also, just really quickly, two things. Number one, while right when I took all these calls, I realized I've got an anthropology textbook behind me, and I went and grabbed it, and I found this paragraph here. Anthropologists have identified two broad categories of religious specialties, specialists, shamans and priests. A shaman is a part-time religious practitioner who is believed to have power to contact invisible powers directly on behalf of individuals or groups. Shamans are often taught to be able are thought to be able to travel to the cosmic realm to communicate with beings and forces that dwell there. They often plead with those beings or forces to act in favor of their people and may return with messages from them. And then it goes on with example, as opposed to there's like fucking a page and a half about shamans. And then somewhere in here it talks about priests and explains the difference. Let's see if I can find them. There we go. A priest is skilled in the practice of religious rituals, which are carried out for the benefit of the group or individual members of the group. Priests do not necessarily have direct contact with cosmic forces. Often their major role is to mediate such contact by ensuring that the required ritual activity has been properly performed. Priests are found in hierarchical societies. They owe their ability to act as priests to the hierarchy of the religious institution. Status differences separating rulers and subjects in such societies are reflected in the unequal relationship between the priest and the laity, which I'm guessing is like the people that worship. I'm guessing is that what that word means. So there actually is a difference and a reason for that word to be using. And it sounds like we were correct that it is a very, very broad term in the same way that the word priest is a very, very broad term that covers a wide expanse of societies. And that's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah. I would say right now, looking at these, that the third or fourth one in the list, I mean, probably the fourth one first, but the third one I think is also really interesting.
Oh yeah, no, I was really interested in looking at the far left numbers, line number 10 and line number 6, but line number 12 is also going to be a lot of fun for everybody involved. And
so, yeah,
last thing,
line number 10, yeah, sure, yeah.
Yeah, to the people in chat, by the way, I saw a few that are thinking that I'm legitimately hateful of the French, and that the Canadians, that I'm actually really mad about Canada and actually hate Canadians. You're absolutely goddamn right, because I am a free American, and it's not that I hate Canada, it's that I love freedom, and I love freedom so much that I will never, ever give in to the disgusting swill that is those penguin fucking weirdos up in Canada, you semi-French freaks. Anyway, with that, let's talk to either one of those. Do you have a preference on any of those?
I gotta be honest, I'm kind of curious about 10. I'm kind of curious about talking to somebody who's like on our side, who maybe like needs a little loving encouragement on an important topic.
Yeah. Let's do it. Let's talk to there's a lot here. Let's talk to John, who is calling in from the dung heap that is Canada. Who wants to ask what gender identity is, and I'll read more about this in a minute. John, you're on the line with Forrest and Austin. How are you doing today?
Oh my gosh. Hey guys.
Hey.
What's up, John?
It's cold up here.
So John, I imagine so. So really quickly, just a couple of things, because there's holy crap, there's a lot here. You made sure to put in the notes here, because you called in using the web caller, that you are a leftist, you consider yourself progressive, you're pro-choice, you're just not sure about what you were calling trans ideology. And then we have here that your pronoun is listed as male. So like, there's a lot there, and like Austin said, you seem to be on our side on most things, and then we have this going on. So what's happening? What's going on?
Well, what's the question?
The question is, what's tripping you up about gender ideology? Like, what part of it?
Also, what is gender ideology?
Yeah, or gender identity. You said gender identity specifically, and then you said trans ideology in the log line, or I guess the description of the call. So I guess just my question, our question is, what specifically is tripping you up about gender diversity and all of that?
I guess it's the language part. I mean, I've studied languages in my life, and I am multilingual. And I guess that just what I know about the language, the gender, the meaning of gender, how it's changed over the years, I think that's the biggest confusion for me.
Okay.
So, like, are you talking about like languages that have like specific like gendered conjugation, like like how Spanish has an or an o, or
like if you go to bookstores or if you go to secondhand stores and you'll pick up a dictionary that's printed, before 2000s, it'll list gender as meaning sex.
So that's not always true. And like, here's the thing is that if you, number one, if you're picking up like a dictionary, probably, sure, because dictionaries don't define words, they just describe their usages, right? The reality is that, like, scientifically speaking, we've known that gender and sex are different things for a long time. They are like, it's becoming more and more common understanding in science. Even, as lit, even recently, you can find papers that conflate the two, but that's becoming much, much less common. And like, every introductory biology textbook today explains the difference between gender and sex. I've got like 5 or 6 different biology textbooks within reach of me at this moment that explain the difference between gender and sex, explain trans people, explain intersex people. These are all biological realities. And this understanding is about 100 years old at this point. So like, it took some time to get through, like, the scientific community, and it's taking longer to get through the rest of the world. In the same way that if you were to go pick up a dictionary and look up the word theory, you'll likely see that the definition is listed as just like a random assertion or a guess. But that's not how it's used scientifically. It's not really what it means. So none of this is a new thing in science, and none of this is a new thing in biology. So just like, it sounds like you are just, it sounds like you're caught up on something that you need not be caught up on.
Well, I think the word gender has a little bit more importance societally than other words. And of course, you presented a lot in that statement, things like intersex. I'm not sure that really lends itself very well to trans ideology. Purely because of the immutability of what someone is born as, even if we accept that intersex is something. I think I lost you there. Did I lose you guys?
No, we got you.
No, you're fine.
We got.
I was just distracted by a different thing. Please continue what you're saying.
If we accept that intersex is something you were saying.
Yeah, like even if we accept that intersex might be definable as something other than male and female, I don't think that's the case. I think they're all still male and female. They've just got developmental conditions. Even if we accept,
we're not talking about sex, we're talking about gender.
Well, yeah, I haven't gotten to gender yet. I'm just talking about intersex because you brought it up. Even if we accepted that intersex was something other than male and female, they would still be whatever they were born as, immutably so. And so I don't think intersex really lends itself to the trans argument in that sense.
So intersex does not. So the thing about this is that trans people are not the same thing as intersex people. There's overlap in these areas, of course, but the reason why intersex people are so often brought up in the argument about whether or not trans people exist and are valid in their identities and whatnot, is to say that, like, even if you try to stick to this situation where you're saying, no, actually, like, sex and gender are synonymous, even if you tried to do that, it falls apart pretty quickly, because let me break it down this way. Number one, sex is not a binary system either, right? We have 2 categories that we have really defined. Really, it's 3 categories, with intersex people being another category, but intersex is not a third sex. But you have these categories that we have broadly defined. However, sex itself is a multivariate system made up of lots of different factors, and not a single one of those factors is solely determinant of the outcome of the system, and not a single one of those factors has only 2 options. And as a result, no matter how you try to define sex and to pin it down, to find this one necessary characteristic that all males have and all females don't have, or whatever the case may be, you end up with some fuzzy gradients in there, right? And you end up with people who you would have to categorize outside of the system that you are setting up as, either an anomaly or just something that breaks your system. And depending on what, categorization system you use, you have anywhere between hundreds of thousands to over 100 million people falling into these anomalous categories. And so it's simply not good enough to just write those people off. That's why this comes up quite a bit. It's not to say that being trans and being intersex is the same thing, or that they're comparable, or that they're all trans people are intersex, or that whatever the case. It's just showing that even in a synonymous system, you still can't find a binary.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to address there. I mean, I think my version or my understanding of the binary per gonochorism is it is still purely a binary. There is no third gamete type or third reproductive type. There's no such
Right,
thing
but we
as
don't define
almost normal.
this, and we don't define this solely by gametes or reproduction. That's
Well,
just
no,
one way to
it's
do it.
defined. It's defined by the body type or developmental strategy type, of which there do exist only two. And
No,
the
they don't.
developmental disorders
John,
are the developmental disorders will cause anomalies and
John,
different body types, of course. But
also really
still, the
quickly, just
source
yeah, really
only
quickly,
male
John.
or female.
John, I'm just going to jump in here really quickly. Also, the gamete thing and the I hope you understand, and I say this completely respectfully, that is like several goalpost shifts down the line from where this debate like starts usually and like started. Like the whole gamete thing is like the latest thing because people started it off with chromosomes. They said, well, there's only two chromosomal orientations, and then once we were able to demonstrate definitively that there are so many more than two chromosomal orientations, people went, oh, well, it's anatomy. There are only two anatomical orientations. People either have an innie or an outie, and we went, that's not true at all.
That makes,
We showed,
that makes
no, hold
sense
on. And then they moved the goalpost down to hormones, and they said, well, it's testosterone or estrogen, and we said, well, those exist in varying amounts in both
Everybody.
or in everybody, in every person, so it can't be that. And we keep moving the goalposts down, and then it goes to gamete production, and it's like oh, well, the gametes, okay, that's the like. And do you see what I'm saying? Like the problem is when you keep trying to find the binary somewhere else, you keep moving keep kicking the can down the road.
No, I don't agree, and I completely understand why initial arguments against it would appeal to chromosomes because those are the functional positions for the male-female reproductive
And you understand
binary.
that there are more than two, right?
No, they're
No,
not.
I understand.
That's not what.
Too. Of course, there can be anomalies, but for functional reproductive, and by definition, the category we're talking about is a reproductive categorization. It's
not.
By definition referring to the reproductive function of the two individuals of the species.
Do what? Okay, I want to be very clear. Like we can agree, John, that like if we're talking about sex in general, not sex specifically just in humans. If we're talking about sex across biology, very obviously not a binary system, right? We can agree on that.
Well, in mammals, it is per gonochorism. It's purely a binary.
Cool. So exactly what I just didn't say, right? Exactly what I just didn't say. What I was just saying is that across the animal kingdom, by and large, not a binary, right? And then we can narrow it down from there. Agreed?
Sure. Yes.
Great. So now when we're talking about humans this way, it's important to point out that we are not classifying humans by their reproductive ability. Like we don't do that.
No. If we're categorizing humans by sex, then that is by definition the reproductive function. And even if an individual has been born with a developmental condition that affects their the development of their sexual reproductive function, that doesn't change the fact that they are either male or female. I mean,
okay. So then where do you pin somebody? So then John, if we're categorizing people by their reproductive function, then how do you categorize people that have no reproductive function?
So I understand that. I understand the difference between the statements only females produce large gametes and the statement only people who produce large gametes are females.
Was that an answer to my question at all?
Well, in a sense, yes, because the difference between those two statements is a crucial difference. A female might not be actually producing gametes. I mean, most females actually don't produce any gametes. Most of their gametes are produced in the womb while they're still a fetus.
You're proving our argument here, John.
You're just missing the point so weirdly. Also, I still don't understand what this has to do with gender. Is your fundamental argument that sex and gender are indeed synonymous even today?
Well, per my usage, they are, and that is still listed as one of the valid usages of the
I'm not asking about your usages. I'm asking about scientifically, honestly true. Because I use the word theory incorrectly all the time. I use it as a colloquialism to say I have a theory about why my car won't start. I do that shit constantly because it's a common colloquial phrase. So if somebody says gender when they really should mean sex or vice versa, that can be a common phrase. I'm asking you about scientific reality, John. Do you think that, like, truly, honestly, scientifically, that sex and gender are the same thing?
I don't think the scientific method can determine a question like that. Science doesn't really define or decide how we use words.
So then, let's focus because let's focus on the like what is actually taught right now. Okay, here's where we're at from our perspective in biology: is that sex refers to the like physiological characteristics of people, of males, females, and intersex people. We're talking about chromosomes, gonads, hormones, maybe gametes, internal genitalia, external genitalia, secondary sex characteristics, all of that stuff, all of the physiological features of a human being. Those are the things that we associate with sex. Gender is a social construct that, of course, does have biological implications because, biological things are the things that do social stuff. But socially, because it is that, gender refers to the behaviors and behaviors and characteristics and cultural expectations and whatnot placed upon men, women, girls, boys, and non-binary people. So you've got two distinct categories, and when I'm usually trying to be very careful. If we're talking about males and females, those are sex terms. If we're talking about man and woman, those are gender terms. Are you telling me that there is no like meaningful difference between the biological aspects of sex and the social aspects of gender?
No, I'm just rejecting your usage of gender because to me, gender simply means.
Why though?
So then, what is the definition of gender for you?
Sex.
Okay. Gender is synonymous with sex. So exactly what I just asked a minute ago, and we danced around weirdly. Yes, the answer to the simple question that I asked you a minute ago is yes. You think that gender and sex are synonymous terms. So then, can you please tell me, John? Can you please tell me, John, what is a woman?
An adult human female.
Ah, there it is.
Yeah,
he watched the documentary. He watched the doc. He watched the Matt Walsh movie.
So we've kicked the can down the road. What is a female? Because you already, I don't think you realize it, but you already just admitted that it's a social construct by giving that specific definition. But we'll stick to the biology for now. What is a female?
The body type for large gametes.
What does it mean for large gametes in that case?
So, like I previously explained, the difference between the statements only women produce large gametes versus only people who produce large gametes are women. Or maybe better stated would be only women have uteruses or versus only people who have uteruses are women. So the difference between those statements is the salient difference here. So a female is someone who should or can or will or did produce large gametes.
Okay, great. So someone who, you said one word in there that I want to hammer into here. Someone who is born with a uterus and with uterine tubes and with a vagina, but does not develop ovaries properly and therefore never produces large gametes. You would still call this person a woman because by your definition, I'm assuming they should produce large gametes.
Yes, in most cases, I believe so. Yeah, I mean, there are DSDs where I guess the reproductive organs might develop differently or not at all, and I guess conditionally there might be situations where someone might be better off to be referred to as a woman or a man, but those are very rare. And I guess the salient point here is
John, you understand. John, yep, sorry. Yep.
No, you're fine.
I was just gonna say, you understand you can't. I hear this from people all the time who have your position, John, who go, well, yeah, there are some anomalies and stuff. You know, you have to count those. You can't just say you can't say humanity exists on a binary and fuck the outliers. You have to count the outliers. Those have to count.
They count, but they count in the sex that they exist within. So
no, but you said that in order to be that sex, they have to produce gametes.
Defined by how it affects one or the other of the two genders.
But that's John, you said in order to exist in that sex, they have to produce large gametes. And then it said, well, what if they don't? And you said, well, I guess they might be an outlier. They might be an anomaly. You have to count those people, John. And you can't just say, they just go into the category I want them to go into.
No, it's not about want. It's about recognizing the fact that there might be developmental conditions affecting the development of someone who should be developing as a female, but they don't develop as a female because of that condition.
What does should be mean? What does should mean?
That's the biggest thing that I keep trying to circle around.
They develop the way that they develop. They're born the way that they're born.
The fact that there are only males or females. There's no in between. There's no almost. There's no more. There's no less. And really, the most important part.
Except John, here we are agreeing. Except here we are agreeing that there are all different kinds of variances in male biology and personality.
All different kinds of male or female is what you wanted to say.
John, you can't even pin down what makes a person female. You're saying that it's a person who produces large gametes.
I just described it to you.
Yeah, and you did a bad job.
It's that they should. It's only that they should be producing eggs, which at the end of the day, that's not biology. That's fortune telling. I'm sorry, if someone has developed in a way.
It's just a description
it's not.
The fact of
gonopause. It's super duper fucking not. And the reason I know it's not is because there's variations in every part of this. Like I said, not a single part of sex determination, not a single one of these little characteristics that we associate with sex has only two options. And not a single one is solely determinant of the outcome of this. So you talk about, they have to have small gametes or large gametes. What about people who don't? Or what about people who produce one size of gamete or have the gonad to produce that type of gamete, but they have a completely different phenotype in the other direction? Somebody with persistent Mullerian duct syndrome, somebody who develops this way but looks that way, whatever it may be. And then you fall back on this weird nebulous, they should have done this. Says fucking who? Who's the person deciding what they should have developed as? How do you pin that down? Because then you have to go back to some other factor that also doesn't have two outcomes, also doesn't have two options.
There's still a female who developed through a unique pathway due to their developmental condition.
Do you see how you're moving the goalpost again, John?
Fucking mean?
Do you see how you're moving the goalpost away from gametes and you're just going to a new definition? Because you can't use gametes anymore. So you're moving on.
I didn't rely on gametes. I explained.
You did.
I explained the difference in gamete production.
Okay, John, I'm going to make it really, really simple for you. John, do you believe in general, has your experience as a human being on Earth led you to believe that there are generally two kinds of people? That human beings are just two kinds of ways. It's just, you're one of two things. That in general, when you meet people, they are firmly in column A or firmly in column B. Is that your experience with people?
Well, no, we're talking about specific developmental conditions.
No, so I'm talking about humanity. I'm talking about humanity, John. I'm talking about people. When you meet people, do you find in general that they're what? No, I'm not. No, I'm not. It's the same question, John.
Yeah,
it's the same thing. No, I'm not. I'm talking about identity. You wanted to talk about
specific developmental disorders that are.
John, you can't answer the question. John, you can't answer the question because you know that the question fucks up your whole position. And I'm just trying to get you there because it is that simple, John. The question of do humans exist in a rigid, fixed, immovable binary is the question of do humans show up in the world as one of two things? Are people just this or that? And is your experience with people, with humanity, that in general, they are this or that? There's a world of difference between Forrest and I. And
questions.
They're not, John. They're not, John. It's the same question.
It's really not. It's a very easy question.
The specifics of whether someone is male or female if they're born with a developmental condition and the specifics of how they exist in the world are two different questions. Anyway,
right. Sex and gender are two different concepts, John. Yeah.
Anyway,
it's just that like, what you're talking about somebody's development, and what I don't understand for you, John, is like the best case scenario for your argument here is, let's assume that all of biology is wrong and that you're right and that it really actually is synonymous, and it really does come down to these developmental pathways that are actually so much more simple and laconic and easy than anybody understands. And it really just is as black and white and cut and dry as you're making it out to be. Can you not hear me now?
If you're there?
John, if you can hear, I can hear you just fine. Can you hear us?
Hello.
Can you hear us, John?
I can't hear you.
You can't
Make sure your phone is woke up. I don't know why I'm telling him that, because he can't hear us. But I would love to explain to you why this makes no sense, John. I would love to explain why what you're saying makes no sense. Oh my fucking god, dude! I just want to explain to him how development works, and I want to read a book to him. I've got some textbooks around here. I was going to pull you up.
Even the fact that he said
can
it.
You hear us?
Can you hear us, John? Even the fact that he said it,
and we lost John.
He said there's a difference between someone who might have been born with an anomalous characteristic, a sex characteristic, and there's a difference between who they develop as their personality. I'm like, exactly. Those are two different things. Yeah. Like, there's a difference between biological, physiological sex characteristics. And yeah.
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, sorry. All right.
So make sure your phone doesn't go to sleep.
I got cut off in that last tirade that you had, but I think the main.
What we were going to tell you. Nope. What we were going to tell you, John, is that let's just pretend for a minute that all of biology is wrong and that you are correct, and that what is taught in basic biology textbooks is incorrect. What the World Health Organization says is incorrect. What the American Medical Association says is incorrect.
Is not a monolith. It's not a monolith.
I'm muting John for a second
so
you can finish this point.
Fucking Jesus Christ, dude. So, John, by the end of this call, I am going to break out like at least one or two textbooks from my own college education in biology that explain why you're fucking wrong about this. But I don't want to just pull those out and just sit you with them and just say, hey, you're wrong because this says you're wrong, right? I'm going to just trying to get to a point here. Even if we pretend like what you're saying is correct, and that really this just boils down to these developmental pathways, we should be able to agree that there are still phenotypic presentations that are deceptive in this way, right? If we talk about Givadoce people, right? I know they're an anomaly and they're this tiny percentage and blah, 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 but they are still all born and like phenotypically female. They are born, you look at them and they're assigned female at birth, and then around age 12, they grow a penis and their testicles descend. That's where the word Givadoce comes from. It comes from the play on words to say balls at 12. So at 12 years old, they just grow balls, right? So you have these people that are seemingly deceptive to what we perceive with our eyes, right? And we can talk about Swyer syndrome, and we can talk about De La Chapelle syndrome, and we can talk about all these other situations. We can talk about complete androgen sensitivity syndrome, and you can sit here and say, oh, they're syndromes, they're conditions, they're blah, 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 blah. But still, you're talking to these people face to face. You don't start that conversation with, what was your developmental pathway? You don't do that, ever. You're not going to go check that shit. You have no way to check that shit. And so the way you interact with these people is necessarily culturally constructed. And the way these people see themselves in the world is necessarily culturally constructed. And by proxy, the way that their brains develop in this environment is culturally constructed. Or at least I should say culturally facilitated, culturally managed. That is a great reason why gender is a social construct because it is the social aspect of it that we're actually interacting with in our day-to-day life. You very rarely actually interact with biological sex. You're interacting with gender, which is a very different thing. I'm going to bring you back for a second, John, and then I'm going to read you some books here in a minute. But I want to hear if you can just wrap your head around the concept that gender and sex are different things with different functions. Maybe if we can meet there, we can then try to work our way backwards.
Yeah, did you hear any of that, John? Or were you talking the whole time that he was talking? We had you on mute, by the way.
Am I on now?
You're on now.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I mean, the appeal that you're doing, it's an emotional appeal. If we're talking about the biology and the developmental conditions, that's one thing. And then you try and switch to how you interact with people. That's a completely different thing. So I understand
because sex and gender are different things. Yes,
they're different things, John. We agree. You agree? Yes.
Sorry, I was in the middle of a sentence.
I know, but do you see, John, how you agreed with us? Do you see? Do you see how you conceded the point? Do you see it?
No, I didn't. I really didn't.
You did. Though you said they're entirely different things, John. You said that.
Trying to continue.
You said those words.
John, you said that they're entirely different things. What does that mean, John? When you say they're entirely different things, what does that mean? Does that mean you're not agreeing with us that they're different things?
We were talking about developmental conditions, and then you guys were talking about how you interact with people in the world.
Correct.
Those are two separate questions.
Yes, John. Those are two separate things. Developmental conditions and how you interact with people in the world. Those are two separate things. So a person's personality and identity versus their biological developmental conditions are two separate things. Sex and gender are two different things. Yes. Oh, yes.
No.
Yes, John. Yes, you already did it. No takesies backsies, John.
No,
takesies backsies.
Sorry.
Also, John, at the very beginning, by the way.
I don't agree with that inclusion.
Also,
you included a word there. You included the word
John?
identity. And you tried to
because gender identity is a different concept.
Well, no, because identity is what you are, the facts of what you are. You can't identify as something you're not.
Yes. Oh my God, dude. Yeah. Fucking Jesus Christ. Just that is so weird. And furthermore, you also admitted that it's largely social because you define woman as adult human female. Adult is also a social construct. Just ask literally any two different countries. I've literally, while you've been talking, I've just been gathering up. I've got 5.
John's favorite answer is no.
I've got 5 different textbooks right here in front of me that we were going to go over as well.
Come on, guys. Woman means different things in different contexts. In a legal context, it might mean one thing. In a biological context, it might mean another thing. Come on.
Well, that sounds like that sounds like culture when you say it that way. Bizarre.
Kind of seems like, John, you agree that woman can mean different things to different cultures, and that it can have different interpretations.
Do you think?
Yeah, but it's still an adult female.
When I asked a minute ago, I was talking about like all these different things. I was talking about like all these different ways in which gender interacts with you in your day-to-day life. And I mentioned, even if we pretend like the World Health Organization is wrong and biology is wrong and this and this and this, and you're like, no, it's actually not that. Like, do you want to start there? Do you want to start with the World Health Organization and work our way down to my own like college education? Because I've got a couple of grad school textbooks here, I've got a couple of undergrad textbooks here, and I've got the World Health Organization page on gender pulled up, ready to go. Which one do you want to start with, John?
I mean, that sounds like a loose appeal to authority, but I'm just going to stick with my usage of gender as synonymous with sex.
Do you understand what the appeal to authority fallacy is? Just to be clear, John, do you understand what the appeal to authority fallacy is?
Yeah.
What is it?
So you know then, if you know what it is, you know that it's not looking at a whole body of professionals in one particular field and hearing what their academic consensus is, right? It would be, this guy's a biologist and he says this. That's an appeal to authority. But if I say the World Health Organization, the smartest biologists and doctors in the world, have this standard based on their understanding of the evidence. And here's my undergrad genetics textbook written by experts and used by experts to train new experts. Here's my anthropology textbook written by experts, used by experts to train experts. Here's my human biology textbook. Here's my spectrum of sex textbook. I've got pulled up also my PDF of Campbell's Biology, the gold standard of biology textbooks in this country, and all of them are written by experts in these fields, used to train new experts in these fields, and they all have an opinion that is very different than yours. That's not an appeal to authority. You understand that, right?
Well, no, it is an appeal to authority when you just try to list all these textbooks that you're referring to, when I know that there are specialists who disagree with those textbooks.
What do you call it when a specialist disagrees with the academic consensus in their field? Do you believe in evolution, John?
Yeah.
Does it bother you that there is an open letter of over 1,000 scientists from all around the world who have all signed this letter that the Institute for Creation Research and Answers in Genesis and the Discovery Institute love to tout, that there's this open letter of over 1,000 scientists from all around the world all explaining that they don't believe in evolution, that evolution is wrong, and that actually intelligent design makes a lot more sense? Does that shake your faith in evolution?
No.
Why?
Because I understand evolution.
Right. And if you were to understand the science of sex and gender, maybe you'd have a little bit more interesting of an argument besides, well, there are experts who disagree.
I've studied it and I've found it wanting, yes.
Yeah,
John,
I'm going to be honest with you. John, you've been getting absolutely bodied in this conversation and you're too dumb to understand it. Like, it's crazy how many times you have contradicted your own really bad argument, and we've pointed it out to you immediately that you've contradicted your own position, and then you just go, no, I didn't. John, you're getting, like, it's really bad. What's clear here is, like, you are just not ready to be wrong about this yet. You're just not ready to let go of it. You're really just, like, emotionally not ready to be wrong about it.
It's weird.
Only place you can,
you got.
Right, but John, we actually had our arguments actually hold water. Your only place you could point to that sex exists on a rigid fixed binary is that one of the sexes produces large gametes and the other doesn't, and that is one of two, this or that. No, that's what you said, John. No, that's what you said, John.
That's not what I said.
No, okay, but John, if that's not John,
to the developmental, there are.
All right, I'm putting him on mute. John, I'm putting you on mute. Nobody can hear you, so stop talking. If that is not what you said, clarify, where does the binary exist? What is the rigid fixed binary where there are only two options, where it's one of two? And just tell me the one place in all of sexual characteristics where there's just one of two, and that proves that people are one of two different kinds of things. Because you did say gametes, but if you want to move the goalpost, I want to hear the new one, John. So what's the new one? I'm unmuting you now. What's the new one, John?
I already explained it again.
Say it.
Explain it again.
And there are two developmental pathways. There's only male or female.
What's your proof? I have a different way to
What's your proof of that, John?
I have a different way to ask the same question that I feel like might helpful, but I want to hear him answer what you're saying.
What's the proof that there are only two developmental pathways, John? What's your evidence?
That there's no third developmental pathway.
Okay, so you just haven't studied developmental biology at all.
John, you literally just said the proof that there are only two developmental pathways is that there are only two. Is that there's only two. You understand that, John?
I mean,
what is your evidence that there are only two?
In all mammals.
John, you're getting destroyed right now. Give me your evidence for your argument. You're getting embarrassed, John. What is your evidence that there are only two developmental pathways? You're getting humiliated. You better have an answer quick, bud.
No, I mean, it's really a question. So,
what's the evidence, John? What's the evidence that there are only two? You're getting your ass kicked, John. What is the evidence that there are only two?
I'm sorry, if you guys have evidence of a third gamete type or a third reproduction type,
We already gave you that.
type,
That's a
gave you
different
that.
thing. That's
There-
a different
there's no-
thing. Also, John, I need you to understand a couple things here. What Austin accused you of earlier is exactly what you fucking keep doing. You just said, he asked you, what is the thing? The one thing that defines the binary. And you said developmental pathway. There's only 2 developmental pathways, which number one isn't fucking true. It is defeated by your own admission that there are variations there, and that, but eventually they point in one direction or the other. That doesn't make any fucking sense. The second thing
John,
is you
muted.
no one's going to hear you
You're
talking.
muted.
But like
You're muted, John.
That goes against even what you said. And then when Austin pinned you down on it, you turned back again to gametes, which again, if not producing gametes is an option, that's still more than 2 things. I'm sorry. And if you want to say, well, they were supposed to do this or that, who the fuck is telling you what's supposed to be? Because then it sounds like you're going back to developmental pathways, which doesn't always end in one fixed thing or another. There's a lot of overlap there. You have a continuum of variation between 2 general poles. That's what the whole concept of a bimodal or spectral model entails. That's all it is. I just want to read you these fucking books, dude. But at the end of the day, I don't think it's going to matter, because clearly you've decided that some random nebulous expert that you decided exists outweighs the academic consensus. And even when we're talking about something else like evolution, and you understand why that's fucking silly. The vast preponderance of the evidence points towards evolution. All biologists that are worth a damn all understand evolution and accept evolution. And it doesn't matter that you have over 1,000 of them that say this, because 99% of them say that. And here you have this same situation where, like, higher education institutions, textbooks, the World Health Organization, every medical association in the country, all of biomedical sciences, all of psychology, all of sociology, all of anthropology, all of biology is all on this same field saying, yeah, actually, we've learned a lot in the past 100 years. It turns out sex and gender are different. Neither of them are strict binary. Not a controversial opinion in science right now. And you're saying, yeah, but there's some experts out there that disagree. Who gives a shit? They're like, where's their research? Show them in a serious conversation with somebody who knows this shit. I don't even think that I'm a fucking expert in this field. I'm just a guy who spent a lot too long studying it. But like, at least I'm able to show you where I'm getting my information from, and not just saying, I think it might be this, when that's obviously not the case. Everything you're pointing to doesn't have only 2 options. I had to step out because it's fucking killing. It is 73 degrees in here, and I don't know why. I'm burning up.
I clearly define the 2 options for you, and I explained that there might be developmental conditions which might one or the other 2 of the 2 options might develop down their pathway, but there still are only 2 developmental pathways.
John,
Right, John. Remember how I said
in a Malarian duck stew.
John, this is how the conversation went. I said, you said gametes, and you said, no, I didn't. And so I muted you and said, yes, you did. But if that's not what you want to say, then let's move on. And you said developmental pathways. And I said, what's your evidence? And you said, the evidence is that there are only 2. And I said, that's not evidence. That's circular reasoning. What is your evidence? And you said, because of the gametes. And you went back to the gametes. But we've already established that some people don't produce gametes. We've already established, John. But we've already established more than 2 options in that realm. We've already established more than 2.
No, you have not.
Yes, we have. You dumb fuck. God damn it, John. John, you've even agreed with it. You've even agreed that some people.
I did not.
Also,
then that was
universal as a thing.
There are no more than 2 gametes in the human species, guys. This is basics.
Right, but some people don't develop them at all. So who are those people?
And I already explained. You must not understand the difference between only women have uteruses versus only people with uteruses are women. Do you guys understand the difference between those 2 statements? I'll repeat them again. One statement is only women have uteruses, and the other statement is only people with uteruses are women. Do you understand?
Do you know the cool thing, John? Do you know the similarity between those 2 statements? The similarity is that neither one of them is true. Like, what are we doing?
No, the first statement is true. Only women have uteruses.
Nope.
Okay, so John,
Based
what
on-
about
based on
men?
my
John,
research,
John,
only
John.
women have uteruses.
Oh my fuck. This, I understand why you believe the silly shit that you believe, because every time we try to explain it to you, just keep repeating yourself and then repeating the next thing and the next thing. Only women have uteruses. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, so please explain men with persistent Mullerian duct syndrome. These are people with XY chromosomes, with a penis, with testicles, with ductus deferens, and also who have a uterus and sometimes part of a vagina. Who are they, John? What are those people? And I swear to fuck, if you just say, well, that's the exception that proves the rule, I'm going to piss every pants that I can find. It's so fucking stupid.
Wait, which DSD are you referring to?
Persistent Mullerian duct syndrome. Do you know what the Mullerian ducts are?
Mullerian duct syndrome. Okay. Let me look this one up.
Oh my God,
You don't
John,
I just told you what it is.
John,
I just told you how it works.
Just admit that it disproves your position. John, just let go. Let go. You're just so emotionally committed to such a bad position, and you've just been getting humiliated. We started this conversation.
I don't want you to have to fucking go
so hard to be
ChatGPT
nice
this.
to you. We tried so hard to be nice to you, but you just refused to let go of it.
Mullerian duct syndrome. Okay. So that makes sense. No. I get it. I understand it now.
Okay.
Point
so
taken.
Are you done? Are you done now? Are you ready?
Are
you ready, John?
DSD. Yeah. So what's your point? It's a male DSD. That's a male.
Right, which means the statement that only women have uteruses isn't accurate, right?
I'll you guys.
John, so that means the statement only women have uterus. I think John's trolling when he does this.
Shit.
Every time he loses the argument, he goes, "Oh man, I lost my connection. Oh man,
this is so fucking annoying." I literally just want to talk about basic evidence, and I fucking can't, because we can't get him to shut the fuck up and quit jumping to the next fucking goalpost, and then he loses the goddamn thing anyway. Is this him? Is he still in the calling queue?
Did I lose you guys here?
John, are you there?
Oh fuck. Okay.
John,
yeah, I'm here. I'm here.
Okay.
John, you keep conveniently losing the call when it's time for you to admit that you lost the. John, shut up. John, shut up. You keep John, shut up.
Yeah.
John, I'm muting you. Shut up. You keep conveniently losing the call right when it's time for you to admit that you've lost the argument. Your argument was that the statement "only women have uteruses" is a true statement. Forrest clearly won. You even went, okay, all right, fair enough. That's, clearly beat you on that point, and
we can move on to something.
It was time for you to just concede the point, and that's when you went, "Oh, I can't hear you guys. Oh, where'd you go?" John, I just want to hear you say once, "I was wrong. I was wrong." Thank you, Forrest and Austin.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, I was wrong that I didn't know that there was a DSD that can make a male grow parts of a uterus because they have a Mullerian duct, because their developmental process got affected in such a way that their Mullerian ducts
John.
produced.
And that means what? That means that there's more than two. That means that there are more than two. And John, shut the fuck up. That means there are more than two developmental pathways, right?
He's not producing any other gametes other than male or female gametes.
And we're back to fucking gametes. John, I'm going to put you on mute now. I hate doing it. I just need you to fucking go back and just get a whiteboard and write developmental pathway on one side and gametes on the other. And just make a little mark every time you say it's not this, it's that, and then immediately switch back to the other one. It's fucking infuriating. And what sucks so fucking bad, dude, is I want to actually talk about the science with you. I really fucking do. I actually want to talk about why we think these things. I actually want to read from these fucking textbooks that are used to train new biologists. I want to teach you this shit, John, but you can't climb down out of your own ass long enough to even get your own argument straight. And so it's just back and forth and back and forth. It's clearly just gametes. Well, what about this difference? Well, that's okay because it's developmental pathways. Well, there's more than 2 developmental pathways, but there's only 2 gametes. But you can also have no gametes. Well, that's okay because there's developmental pathways. And just back and fucking forth over and over for over an hour. A miserable fucking hour of this, dude. Are you ready to actually talk science, or are you still... Because here's what fucking blows my mind, dude. We still haven't even taught you what a goddamn pronoun is. Have we forgotten about that?
Oh.
Are we still on that?
Shit.
That you still fucking have your pronoun listed as male? We haven't talked about what it is to be trans. We haven't talked about gender identity, which is the thing you called in about. You said, what is gender identity? We haven't talked about what the fuck trans ideology is. I don't know what that is. We haven't talked about what pronouns are. We haven't covered any meaningful, substantive thing in this entire conversation because we're just spending an hour trying to figure out whether or not more than 2 is the same as 2. John, I'm going to bring you back. Are you ready to move on to actual science, or can we just fucking be done with this shit? Because this sucks so bad, dude.
Well, no, you guys are misrepresenting my position completely.
No,
Completely.
John,
No, I'm fucking not.
Not even close. Not even close.
I looked up the DSD you just appealed to, and it is a male DSD. Why would they describe it as a male DSD? Explain to me.
Oh my fuck. I will read it to you from this fucking textbook right here. This is human biology textbook right here from fucking McGraw-Hill Education. It is not correct to say that all XY individuals develop into males. Some XY individuals become females. Similarly, some XX individuals develop into males. And individuals with XY female syndromes... Shut the fuck up. This is why you believe the things you believe, John. I'm literally reading a college textbook to you. Good fucking gravy, dude. And it goes on to explain why these things happen and why these people look the way that they do. And then it goes on to then talk about cluster categorization. It talks about how we just typically would look at the external phenotype and assign somebody a sex that way. But that doesn't mean the same thing as gender. As we look now to this genetics textbook, also from my undergraduate education and all the things that you think you know, but never have fucking studied for real. I'm dying to know what your actual studies were, because I heard you say I studied this. What do you mean by studied? Is it Wikipedia, John? Here we have this, where it says gender is not the same as sex. This is after this whole paragraph where it talks about sex determination, talks about the cells of human females normally contain 2 X chromosomes and the cells of human males normally contain 1 X and 1 Y chromosome. Doesn't say it's always. And then it says this: gender is not the same as sex. Biological sex refers to the anatomical and physiological phenotype of an individual. Gender is a category assigned by the individual or others based on behavioral and cultural practices. One's gender need not coincide with one's sex. Then we look, well, what the fuck does that mean? Cultural practices. Let's check out this college-level anthropology textbook, because anthropology, as we know, is the study of humans. And we get this little thing here, where we talk about many anthropologists did significant research throughout the 20th century that demonstrated that human cultural practices could not be reduced by racial differences. We're talking about race going into gender here. They also argued that the culturally shaped gender roles considered appropriate for males or females in a given society could not be reduced to or predicted by the biological sex of an individual, whether determined by anatomy, physiology, or chromosomes. Today, anthropologists, along with other scientists, call into question the assumption that human beings come in 2 and only 2 biological sexes, and that gender roles are built upon those sexes. Well, that's an awfully big claim. I wonder how serious that's taken in the scientific community. And so then we go over here and we pull up gender by the World Health Organization, the thing that I was talking about that you claim was an appeal to authority. Make sure to tell your doctor not to appeal to authority, by the way, next time you go in for some sort of treatment and they say, well, the World Health Organization standard is this. Now, don't appeal to authority, bitch. I want whatever the fuck I read on Wikipedia. And we have this page right here, of their page on gender and health. I can actually scoot that over a little bit, make sure it fits in the screen. Gender refers to characteristics of women, men, girls, and boys that are, what, John? Socially constructed. This includes norms, behaviors, and roles associated with being a woman, man, girl, or boy, as well as relationships with each other. As a social construct, gender varies from society to society and can change over time. It goes on to talk about gender and society, but then it also says gender interacts with but is different from sex, which refers to the biological and physiological characteristics of males, females, and intersex persons, such as chromosomes, hormones, and reproductive organs. It goes on from there to say a lot more interesting things, like this whole thing about gender identity, which is what you fucking called in about, which refers to a person's deeply felt internal and individual experience of gender, which may or may not correspond to the person's physiology or designated sex at birth. And then we pull up this. This is another fucking biology textbook. This one's called Campbell Biology, Concepts and Connections. It's a really common textbook for undergrad education, even maybe high school students in an advanced placement thing. And we can just search this right here, say Control F for transgender, and see what we find. Oh, look, it's this whole paragraph right here. The biochemical, physiological, and anatomical features associated with males and females are turning out to be more complex than previously realized, with many genes involved in their development. We now know that sex is not a binary state with just two defined outcomes. Because of the complexity of the genes and proteins involved in sex determinations, many variations exist. Some individuals are born with intermediate sexual or intersex characteristics, or even with anatomical features that do not match an individual's sense of their own gender, known as transgender individuals. Sex determination is an active area of research that should yield a more sophisticated understanding in years to come. And I don't know if you can see it underneath this here, but we even get a little test question down at the beginning here. Does the development of ovaries necessarily mean that a human has two chromosomes? And the answer is no, John. So like I said, I've got a ton of actual fucking textbooks written by experts in biology that are used by experts in biology to train new experts in biology that went through the university system to learn a bunch of shit. When I was in my undergrad degree, I used a lot of those. In fact, I've all of my fucking undergrad education in biology, I've used those things. And then in anthropology in grad school, I used these resources. And then in biomedical sciences training in grad school, I used these resources. And now as a PhD student, I use these resources because they are the academic consensus in my field. If you know some scientist who says something different, great. Fucking Nito Bandito. They are in the minority in this situation. They are going against the academic consensus. They are ignoring what the field is saying in this moment. And maybe they have a good argument. But you know what we do in science, John? We actually fucking think about this shit rather than just saying, well, there's only two gametes, and there's only two gametes because there's only two developmental pathways. And if there's a third developmental pathway, it's okay because there's only two gametes. And if there's more than two options on gametes, it's okay because there's only two developmental pathways. And back and forth and back and forth. That is circular reasoning. It doesn't fucking work. Good gravy. This call sucks ass. Oh, by the way, this is a fucking Springer manual that I used also during my first master's called The Spectrum of Sex, which talks about the molecular basis that induce various sexual phenotypes across the animal kingdom. Biology is more interesting than you, John. Fucking get over it, dude. Go learn some real fucking science. This sucks. Austin, do you have anything left that you wanna say to John?
Terrible call, John. We tried really, really hard for a long time at the beginning there to be nice to you and to try to like approach you as like hey, you seem like a progressive guy, but like I've never seen someone shift goalposts from one argument back to the other and then back to the other that way. Usually it's like on to the next, on to the next, on to the next, but you were just going in back and forth with such a dizzying speed. It almost felt like we were being trolled. Again, the thing of like every time it was time for you to concede a point, every time you ran out of places to retreat to, you would go, oh, I lost the call, I can't hear you guys, and we would have to start over. But I think we've pretty definitively established that we're not misrepresenting your argument. Your argument is that sex and gender are synonymous, they are the same thing, and that they exist in a strict, rigid binary, and that the proof of that is gamete production. And if it's not that, it's that there are only two developmental pathways. And we have established both that there are circumstances that make it clear that that there are more than two options of how gamete production can work. And we've made it clear that you've even agreed with that there are more than two developmental pathways. You even said, you went, oh, okay, so that condition where someone might have a uterus, but be identified as male because of their external sex characteristics. Oh, okay, yeah, I guess that's a different, that's a variation. Cool. That means that there are more than two developmental pathways. We have established this over and over and over and over ad nauseum in this terrible call. And we really could have gotten into more interesting territory if you were just the slightest bit capable of conceding a point, of just conceding a fucking point when you're outmatched, when it's like, oh, okay, didn't know that. Thanks for letting me know. Let's move on. But you just are so committed to being wrong right now. And it was like I said, you got your ass kicked in this call. Is there anything else you want to say before we move on? John, I'm unmuting you now.
Well, that was just a shit show. I'm sorry. You guys just completely misrepresented my position. I did concede.
What did I say that was wrong? What did I say that was wrong, John? What did I say that was wrong? What did I say that was wrong?
Well, your entire appeal to the fact that you have all these textbooks, I'm sorry, there are specialists who disagree with you. And they are
John,
able to
shut
explain,
the fuck up.
God,
how do you tell the difference? John,
shut the fuck
John,
up.
my last question for you. My last question for you, John. How do you, John, tell the difference between the specialists who disagree with the academic consensus and the specialists who agree with the academic consensus? How do you, John, decipher which one of them is actually telling the truth and making the most sense? How do you put in that effort? What kind of lit review have you done, John?
The ones who actually make sense and don't try to gish gallop the call-ins like
and
you
you
guys
tell me that I'm doing a fallacy. And you tell me that I'm doing a fallacy when your entire thing is the appeal to fucking incredulity.
It's just not easy to try and get a word in with you guys.
Yeah, John,
because John, you keep saying dumb shit.
And you never shut the fuck up. Like you never shut the fuck up.
John, you literally just defined the appeal to incredulity fallacy. I know that the majority of experts in this field say this, but the ones that I think kind of make sense say this other thing. Great. Do you have any professional training in biology or medicine or anything like that, John? Any at all?
Yes, I do, but that's irrelevant. Again, there are
like
only two.
What is your training?
No, he doesn't.
What is your training?
Only two.
What is your training, John?
I tried to ask you about the DSD that you brought up previously.
What is your training, John?
Why was the
John?
Why is the
what is your training, John?
This was a question I had before that you tried to deflect from. The DSD that you brought up previously, why is it a male DSD? Why is it a DSD?
So you didn't. So just to be clear, you didn't listen then, because I did address that. I was reading textbooks to you, and we covered specifically that. What is your training in biology or medicine or anthropology or psychology or sociology or any of the fields that disagree with you, John?
Your monologue was very, very broad. I want a specific.
What is your training, John?
I want an answer to the specific DSD
John,
that I asked
last
about.
time I'm going to ask you, and then I'm going to hang up because you can't answer a question. What is your training?
It's personal life, man. Anyway, let's
okay.
go to
there it is.
Personal
there it is.
life.
There
personal
it is.
life. Wouldn't have taken a genius to understand that you were. Yeah, wouldn't take a genius to understand you were lying, John. Wouldn't have taken a genius to understand that you were absolutely full of shit. And yeah, we're done with you, John. That was a fucking terrible call, just absolutely horrible call. And what's so funny is we let him back on, and the first thing he says is, well, you guys misrepresented my position. And the first thing he says about his position is there are only two developmental pathways. And it's like, oh my God, how could we the only thing John said on this entire call is there are two developmental pathways, and when that ran out of steam, there is only one sex has a uterus and produces large gametes. And he went back and forth between those two things, and then when we would let him speak, he'd go, "You're misrepresenting my position." And it's like that's the only position you keep going back and forth between. And if he's still technically on. So John, I'm just curious if you think we are misrepresenting your position, and your position is sex and gender are synonymous. They're the same thing. And we know that there are only two, that they exist in a fixed rigid binary because there are only two developmental pathways, and there is only one of them that has a uterus and develops large gametes. That's what I think your position is. Let me know how I'm misrepresenting your position. I'm unmuting you now, John.
He's not going to do it. He's going to run off on some tangent.
I'm still asking the question of why is persistent
Okay, John, hanging up on you. Okay, John, that's it. Bye.
Yep.
Bye, John. All right.
Told you.
Yep.
He's not going to do it.
Yep.
He's not going to do it.
Yep.
That's what bothers me so much. I would have loved to talk about it. I would have loved to talk about the science. I would have loved to dig in a little bit more and ask some serious questions, but he got hung up on the stupidest possible fucking things, like the fact that it has the word male in it. Oh my God, I guess that means only two, right? But I guess that's what you get when you graduated from the University of Life Experience, and now you think that you can fucking parse between different academics in the same field, and why these ones that go against the consensus really make the most sense, because they just resonate with you personally. Come on.
And again, that's why earlier, before we move on, like, that's why earlier I just went to the place of, like, because I don't have all of the academic experience that you have, Forrest. And I always try to go to a place where, like, obviously this guy is going off of life experience and what makes sense to him. And that's why I asked the question, is it your experience that people seem to present themselves to you in one of two strictly rigid categories? Yep. Like, is that your experience with people? That, like, when you're out talking with other human beings, does it seem like people are just this kind of person or that kind of person, and that's it? And if the answer is like, of course, no. Of course, just your simple sort of anecdotal, colloquial experience with human culture tells you no. Like, every single person has their own little unique mixture of ingredients that make them them. That's the basis. If you're still listening, John, or if anyone else who agrees with John is still listening, that's the basis of understanding your gender diverse friends. Is it's just the reality that, like, there are more than two kinds of people in the world. And you've met trans people, you've met non-binary people, you've met gay people, you've met bisexual people, you've met pansexual people, you've met, I mean, like, you know this. Like, you've met people who just check different boxes, a different arrangement of boxes, a different bouquet of boxes. And to say that people, that what makes sense to you on an internal level is just that it's either you're this or you're that, I don't believe you. I don't believe that that's actually your experience with humanity. Is, in general, people are either this thing or this thing. It's like, nope. It's not, that's just not how it works.
What bothers me so much about it, and I literally this semester, because you're talking about my academic experience, I still would not consider myself an expert in this area at all. Like, I have advanced training in this area. It is not my area of expertise. There are so many people that are so much smarter than me on this, that agree with me on this. Like, I'm not fucking breaking the mold here. I'm not like the biologist who has this opinion. I'm literally, most of what I'm trying to get across here is shit that I'm parroting from my own education, as it would be with anything else, right? And, like, I'm trying to explain that, like, this is more complicated than you think, and I want so fucking badly to just explain how much cooler life can be, especially humans. Humans are so awesome, and there's so many variations here, and no matter what you try to pin down, there's so much diversity. And even if you think you can find something that has it, I wanted to ask him, when I said I have a question that might be more to the point, I wanted to ask him Joe Bond's question. What is the necessary condition to be a woman or a man or whatever like that? And see if we could pin one thing down that is solely based on physical characteristics that all cisgender men and transgender women have, and all cisgender women and transgender men have, and neither of them cross over at all, right? And, like, I wanted to see if we could get something, but the closest we got is uterus. You have to, if you have a uterus, you are a woman, period. Okay, here's men with uteri. Well, fuck, they're still guys because something and gametes, and, like, it's just it's so fucking boring. And, like, even this semester, you know, fucking people like to point to me towards, like, oh, there's Colin Wright, who's a evolutionary biologist, and there's the Emma, who's a fucking developmental biologist, and there's Dawkins, who's another evolutionary biologist, and there's all these people like, okay, great. Literally this semester, I'm taking a fucking graduate level evolution course, and my professor, a PhD in evolutionary biology, teaching at a fucking accredited university to teach PhD students, to teach new biologists, did a whole fucking like 45-minute lecture on how sex isn't binary, not even in humans. And it's like, this is just shit that is still being taught in school today because it's fucking science. And I'm sorry that science has gone in a direction that you're not particularly comfortable with. But that doesn't make it not fucking true. And the point of skepticism is to critique your own fucking internal ideas, even if they're really, really uncomfortable. I didn't used to believe that sex was non-binary. I used to use sex and gender interchangeably. I used to do all those things. And then I got more educated and changed my mind. And I'm not saying that everybody who disagrees with me is stupid, but like, holy fuck, you have to at least be able to have a coherent, consistent argument that isn't just it's always gametes, unless it's always chromosomes, unless it's always development, unless it's always gametes again. It just fucking blows. It's so lazy.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Okay, so we do have a couple theists on the line.
Yes.
But we also have somebody that, you know, in our little chat in the server.
I know who
somebody
you're
wants
talking
us to talk to Chad, and because apparently Chad
Yes.
is we would have a similar conversation that we had with John, where like Chad is like technically one of us and like on our side, but he's one of those people that like thinks that woke culture goes too far, and that, you know, like certain, you know,
Hey.
so that there's
Let's talk to him. Let's talk to Chad.
Yeah.
Let's bring on Chad, all the way from the nightmare that is New Zealand, who is an atheist who, and this is what it says on the call screen. Young people are moving to the right because they agree with people like Dawkins and Harris about the left not taking responsibility for its excesses. I want to start by asking about excesses, but we'll see where it goes. Chad,
Yeah.
you were on the line with Forrest and Austin. How are you doing today? Oh, Chad, please tell me
Hello,
you're there.
Chad.
Chad, if your phone
Hello.
is asleep, we can't hear you because you're calling in on the web caller. Make sure to tap your phone and wake it up. Otherwise, we can't hear you.
Hello, Chad.
Come on,
are you there?
Chad. Come
Are
on,
you going to
Chad.
tell us why the wokes are going too far?
Chad dropped. Chad, can
darn.
hey, Lux, can we open the line back up for Chad really quick? See if Chad can call back in. Because I really want to talk to Chad. Chad waited for a really long time. Here we go. And immediately we have a call initializing. Let's see. Here we go. I'm going to go and just bring him right in.
All right.
Chad, can you hear us?
Hey, guys. I'm so sorry.
Hell yeah.
I'm so embarrassed. Excuse me. I'm so sorry.
You have nothing to be embarrassed
Can you
about.
hear me okay?
That's just tech issues. It's fine. Yes.
Yes. The life of tech. Yes. Thank you for having me on. Love your show. Love you what you do. Great comment. Well, the long conversation was a bit painful, but all the more to commend you, I guess.
Thank you.
Let's not waste time. I wanted to. I've got a hypothesis. I'll pose it as a debate just to see if we can get clear answers. But I'd like to pose that the left and the progressive left have not perhaps taken ownership or responsibility for some of the transgressions, specifically pre-COVID, and that may be a factor in pushing people to the right, or maybe even just red pilling.
Yeah, could you give us some specific examples so we know what we're talking about?
Yeah, sure. So prior to maybe 2015, if somebody posted about Black Lives Matter on Imgur or Imgur, depending on how you say it, you would have actually got pushback along the lines of something like All Lives Matter. And then 2015, 2016 comes around and Trump takes presidency, and essentially we get a bit of a cultural shift into kind of recognizing the now results of people's diminishment, people's oppression. We now have a person who's like crazy running the free world, so to speak. But some specific examples would be something to the effect of, I believe the Black Lives Matter protest was something along the lines of $20 billion of damage. I believe you might have remembered things like, maybe it was BuzzFeed or HuffPost posting videos like questions for men, where men were demonized and caused, I think, a lot of anti-feminist rhetoric because of this sort of.
So
I would
just to be clear, let's
Yeah.
dig into just a couple of things really quickly here, Chad. I'm sorry to cut you off, but I just want to dig into two things. Number one, it sounds an awful lot like what you just said, is that acknowledging racial injustice inadvertently caused Donald Trump to be elected, and therefore we shouldn't have done that. And I want to make sure that isn't what you're saying.
No, not at all. Likely,
Okay.
I think Donald Trump's presidency was the result of things not being done enough about people's oppression,
Okay, great.
minorities.
So then,
that kind of, yeah.
Great. So then we can move on from that, because I want to make sure that's what that sounded like, and I didn't want to mischaracterize you. So now, just to start with the first point, you talk about all this damage that BLM protests did. Just so you know, actual investigation reports have shown that about 93% of Black Lives Matter protests were completely peaceful. And when there was violence and when there was property damage, more often than not, it was caused by external agitators, usually white supremacists or police officers who were going in and breaking shit and causing problems. Look no further than the fucking videos of people out protesting these events, and suddenly a pallet of bricks shows up and is just left out in public for no reason, right? Or Umbrella Man, who has kind of become a meme. The guy dressed in all black carrying an umbrella and smashing windows with a hammer turned out to be a neo-Nazi, right? Who went there to the protest to cause problems, to create damage. So actual reporting shows that what you're talking about here, and I'm not insulting you by saying this, what you are saying is just propaganda that has been pushed out by the right, saying that all these violent protests were so terrible, they burned cities to the ground, and they were all these violent, evil people, and they were misogynistic, and they were racist, and they meant that only Black Lives Matter, and all these other ridiculous things, which, by the way, is exactly every single bit of what was said about Martin Luther King as well. If you could actually find political cartoons from back in the day of Martin Luther King talking to a reporter, I'll see if I can find it. I'll hold it up on the screen if I can find it. There's this really great political cartoon from that time of Martin Luther King talking to a reporter saying, I'm going to have another peaceful protest tomorrow. And behind him, the city's just fucking on fire. And so these are the exact same arguments that have always been used for racial justice movements.
Yeah. And I mean, I will just to piggyback on that, Chad, really quick, just to like even the Kyle Rittenhouse thing, that was there have been a lot of situations like that where right-wing reactionaries to a protest will show up and drive their car through a crowd of people, or they'll show up with weapons, with guns, where nobody in the crowd has a gun, but that situation escalates. The reason why there's someone coming after Kyle Rittenhouse trying to hit him with a skateboard is because he's carrying a machine gun. Nobody else has a gun. And when a right-wing guy wearing camouflage shows up and starts opening fire on protesters, it makes people, react defensively because they are now in a life or death situation. And that kind of stuff happens all the time, where Proud Boys show up and they might even dress to look like a typical Antifa terrorist, and they'll wear, a little face mask and stuff like that. But it basically the I agree with Forrest, where the thrust of what you're talking about here is mostly right-wing propaganda meant to delegitimize these protests, which were overwhelmingly peaceful. I have personally attended in my life 5 or 6 big Black Lives Matter protests. I've never been at one where property damage occurred. In every single one that I went to, we just marched down the street holding signs and yelling slogans. That's how the vast majority of them go. I mean, I did this in New York City, walking down Fifth Avenue, with 100,000 people. I did this in Salt Lake City. I've done this in Los Angeles. And this line that keeps getting repeated by the news, which is cities were burned to the ground. American cities are on fire. Donald Trump was saying right now that the reason why he sent the National Guard into Portland is because if you turn on your TV, you can just see Portland's on fire. But if you look at crime statistics, Portland's the 117th safe, or I think it's the 76th safest city in America, and then Chicago's the 117th, and Chicago's the one that they love to say is the most dangerous, and it's just a racial dog whistle because a lot of Black people live in Chicago, and and so it's just for the vast majority of these claims, I mean, I guess it just sounds like you would like the left to take accountability for right-wing misinformation and propaganda. And I don't think that gets us anywhere.
I also want to. We've been talking a really long time, Chad, and I'm going to let you speak. But just to bounce off of one really quick thing, what Austin talked about with him going to these protests and never having any violence. I also attended plenty of Black Lives Matter protests here in Tulsa. There were several weeks, my wife will tell you, where I was the only one standing out on the street corner with a sign because I just made it a point to be out there every Saturday, whether anybody else was or not. And there was real violence at 2 of them and threatened violence at a couple more. Every single time it was by a white person who was coming there to cause violence. The 2 times there were real violence was 2 times when people ran a car through us. One of them bounced off of me a little bit, and one of them hurt some other person. Well, at one point, one of the persons driving a car through us was also waving a gun at us. Both of those were white people that were just there to cause problems and actually went around. At one of them, they went around the police barricade to drive through the crowd. And then when I was out on the street corner by myself, 2 instances, one of them was a white guy threatening to come and shoot me, and the other one was a white guy who walked past me and chanting, "No, they don't," as I chanted Black Lives Matter. So, like, every single time, it was somebody else coming in to start a problem. That's all I have to say, and we've been talking for a long time. Please respond, and then if you have something else you want to say next, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, sure. No, thank you. And not at all. I wasn't aware that the propaganda, the way that you described the Martin Luther King type depiction, I wasn't aware that it followed the same trend, kind of in the same way at the beginning of your
Did you see the picture I put up on screen?
I'm sorry, I'm walking and talking, so I didn't exactly see it. Sorry.
It's okay. Next, if you tune back in later, I did show that political cartoon on the screen for a little while, but go on, please.
Beautiful. I will look at it. Yeah, but it's interesting because you talked about the reasons to oppress or diminish transgender people. Essentially, always follows the same rhetoric. It follows the same step-by-step process, and it sounds like it's kind of the same with respect to the propaganda of diminishing people's humanity in general. Maybe it's just following the same thing, and it's just being repeated over and over. Is that what it actually is coming across? Just the same talking points about a new minority or a new oppression.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the entire federal government in the United States right now is basically preparing to designate anyone they don't like as a terrorist by saying that Antifa is a terrorist organization, a domestic terrorist organization that carries out acts of domestic terror. And by doing the whole reason why they're doing that is so that they can call me and Forrest domestic terrorists, that they can call anyone that disagrees with them or that they feel like is a threat to their power a domestic terrorist. And that the definition that they use is so intentionally vague and broad, and they aren't actually able to point at any specific examples of the domestic terror that they are alleging is happening. It's all just, it's all just the same thing.
Yes. I did want to talk a little bit about the kind of BuzzFeed 50 questions for men, but that sort of seems a little bit arbitrary. It's what I'm also thinking about, because I did want to talk about or ask about people who, I said to Stephanie before, people who I considered or formerly considered heroes of mine. And I think I'm privileged in the sense that I didn't get to know Christopher Hitchens, so I never got to know, some of his positions that I might not have liked, at least in real time. But someone like Sam Harris recently kind of feels like a second death of a hero for me while he's still alive, because of his I would just call it a ridiculous or almost strange apathy towards the people in Palestine and Gaza.
Yeah,
it's something it was just such a weird. It's just so strange to me. And then he obviously proclaims his own Zionism as well now. But he's got an influence on people probably my age who have seen him as a hero and will probably take what he says as quote unquote gospel. But he is obviously so inundated with political correctness that he thinks political correctness is the biggest threat to Western society. So much so that it almost feels like his concerns for Trump are secondary. And my belief is that because of that, he's driving people towards Trump, even though it's inadvertent. So is there, I kind of feel, did you want to say, I just wanted to ask,
no.
is
Go ahead.
this possibly just the results of people living on Twitter and conceiving that as real life and just being so disconnected with the real world? Or is there hope for these people where we can say, hey, look, I go to the office and I see a Muslim guy, we laugh, we talk shit about people, we do the same thing as everyone else. You see a transgender person, excuse me, you see them, it's a tall person who, doesn't look exactly like how you'd expect, but you're waiting in line and talking, and you're like, hey, I'm Ted, how are you? Really, and it's all fine. There's nothing wrong, nothing, nature just carries on, the world goes on. But people who I kind of believe formerly thought in these sorts of ways, the world is kind of boring and normal, and the extremists are the people who we need to, convince that we can live a good life without their extremism. And now it's starting to feel like these people are becoming, for lack of a better word, it just feels like they're becoming extremists in the sense that there is no wavering. Like John calling and saying there's gametes and gametes. Like, man, can we just have a little bit more nuance? Just an information of more nuance, please.
I think what happens is we have the anti-theist movement, right? Of which I am a proud part, right? The whole point of this channel is we talk about that religion is harmful, that it's a net negative on the world. We try to help people free themselves from religion, but we're always very careful to make sure that people know we're talking about religion and not all religious people uniform, right? I have had a Christian as a guest on this show. I have had a Muslim as a guest on this show. I have, religious people that I call dear friends and that I respect and look up to. And the fact that they're religious weighs on that. And I'm honest with them about it. I'm like, hey, this is a thing we're not even going to come close to seeing eye to eye on. I fucking hate this about you, but I love everything else that you do. You know what I mean? And you have these situations with people like Harris and Dawkins where I think two major things have happened. Number one, they kind of lost that plot where they made it such a thing to talk about how horribly dangerous Islam is that they then started just putting that as all Muslims and Muslim culture is also equally bad. And you see that with Richard Dawkins saying that he's a cultural Christian and he wants to see more Christmas trees and not see any mosques and Ramadan and everything. That's just racism. That you are just expressing that you are uncomfortable around another culture. That's all that is, right? You're not defending the world from the encroaching, fundamentalist Islam. You are defending Christian nationalism in just as long as you don't have to practice it. And you can continue selling books arguing against it. And the second thing is, I think that they are so used to being in this position of being contrarian. And as long as I'm pissing people off, I'm doing my job, that now they get into the situation where it's like, hey, no, there's real fucking problems here. And the fucking woke liberals that you've been arguing against because they want religious equality and shit, and they don't think the religion is bad, those same people are now arguing for really fundamental human rights for everybody. And you're just seeing the same target and not actually critically thinking about what is actually being said to you. I haven't kept up with Sam Harris in a long time. I used to look up to him too. I loved his book, The Moral Landscape, back when I read it in undergrad. Who knows if it still holds up to my sensibilities today, but I loved him. And the last thing I heard him say about Palestine was that if Israel is committing a genocide, it's the most inept genocide in history. So you just don't know the fucking definition then. Sorry. What the fuck is this? That's just such a lazy, weak argument. And then I hear Dawkins talking about sex and gender and literally saying on the podcast that he's on, everything in biology is a gradient. Everything is a spectrum, except for sex, which is strict and non-binary and has no exceptions whatsoever. And gender doesn't really mean anything. It's what the fuck are you talking about? What are you saying? And so I feel like these people are just so used to being reviled that they feel like as long as they're pissing people off, they're selling books, they're making money, they're doing their job. And they have conflated their criticism of religion and of ideologies that go against rationality and of dogma and all these other things with literally any political or social opinion that they don't immediately grasp. And that just fucking sucks. And I cringe so hard thinking about just how far those people have moved in. And you know what? maybe that's not even fair. It sucks for me how far they've fallen out of graces in my community and myself. Maybe it's honest criticism of me. Maybe it's an honest criticism of me to say that all those red flags were always there and I just didn't see them properly. Because I am also a cis white dude in middle America that wasn't affected by some of their hateful rhetoric. That's also fair. But I feel like it's just gotten significantly worse. You know what I mean? That's all.
Yeah. No, I'm very much the same. And that's a good point as well, with respect to maybe they were always this way and we just didn't see it. I couldn't answer. But actually, that just reminds me, going back to the topic prior, I just want to ask one more thing about that, because I just want to get it clear. What you've talked about with respect to propaganda is very clear, but I just want to make sure, do you believe, or would you say it's a misrepresentation to say that there ever was an overcorrection culturally with respect to, I would call it a little bit of an enlightenment with respect to class wars and culture wars, where we started realizing things? Do you think that there was an overcorrection, which is to say a correction that caused some harm, to maybe even to the point of like those 50, what do you call, baiting, these kind of baity type of things that were just making people irritated, and TV shows as well, we're talking about political things where they otherwise wouldn't, and not something that's going to destroy the fabric of society, but as I say, kind of irritating at the most. Was there an overcorrection or not? And it kind of brings up to the point of, are overcorrections sometimes necessary to make progress?
I want to know, what do you think the worst? Sorry, go ahead, Austin. I had a direct question, but I'm sure you have some more interesting.
Go ahead and ask your question.
Okay, what do you think would be the worst possible overcorrection towards the left side of things? Because as far as I can tell, if there was such a thing as an overcorrection, it would be that too many people got equality. I don't know, man. It's like there's kind of this like idea out there in the ether that like if you go far enough left, somehow you get to fascism again, and that just doesn't make any sense. The most overcorrection we could do, if that is possible, is that somehow or another, the Fox News nightmare comes true, and cisgender heterosexual white Christians are no longer in the majority. Why would that be scary? Is it maybe because you're afraid of being treated the way that you've treated minorities forever? I think that's what it is. Meanwhile, any encroachment to the right is towards fucking theocracy, towards fascism, towards taking away people's fundamental dignities and human rights. So I don't have a problem with any of that, and I don't think that overcorrection is really a concern in this area.
Sure, yeah. No, that's fair. I think. Sorry, you go ahead, Austin.
I just wanted to say, just from my perspective, this question, just to answer your question of, is there an overcorrection that's taken place, and if so, where? And I personally don't see it. What I see is, again, it's sort of like this mirage effect of people who say how violent the Black Lives Matter protests are, and how cities are burning to the ground, and how militant groups of Antifa radicals are throwing Molotov cocktails at just small business owners and things like that. There's a lot of talk about the overcorrection, but I don't personally see it. And when I see the critics of the overcorrection pointing at what their evidence is for it, I find it to be kind of laughably wanting. Like just the critique of like the wokeification of Hollywood, for example. Right now there's a movie in theater called Predator Badlands, and it's that's the latest one in the Predator franchise. And before this movie even came out, the woke movie grifters on YouTube, who make all of their money by like feigning outrage over how woke everything is in Hollywood, and every movie is so woke, we're freaking out about the fact that like the main character seemed to have that they specifically designed his hair to make him look even more coded as a black man, even though literally the Predator has always had dreads, has always, and was played by a black actor in the original movie. And then they were all freaking out about the fact that the other main character is a woman. And it's just sort of like, to these people, the overcorrection of our society, the we've gone too far, is just like black people and white and women in movies at all, and sometimes the existence of a queer character. And to me, it's like it's so nothing, and they're just such a bunch of fucking insufferable babies about it. And also, like, they're just wrong. Like the original Predator movie that everyone goes back to and goes like, that's back when men were men. The most iconic still from that movie is Carl Weathers and Arnold Schwarzenegger grabbing arms, and it's like white bicep and black bicep coming together to defeat racism, brother. And it's just like these two dudes being like, yeah, masculinity taking down the racism, brother. Like, Dylan, you son of a bitch. And like it's like it's always existed in this franchise. Danny Glover is the star of the sequel. Like, there have always been black people in the Predator franchise. There have always been women in the Predator franchise. This is not something that Dan Trachtenberg is doing because Hollywood wanted to put in the woke. I just, to me, the idea that we have overcorrected and made things too woke and we should own that is just as fallacious as the idea that, like, Black Lives Matter protests are this kind of unilaterally dangerous, violent, mob justice, crazed thing. I just don't see it. Like, every time one of these people points at a TV show or a movie or something going too far, I remember when, like, a Jurassic Park movie was coming out. I don't think it was the most recent one. I think it was the one before that. But, like, one of the trailers had a black woman in the trailer, and people were just, like, sharing the still of a black woman and going like, oh, so Jurassic Park's woke now. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? It's just a black woman as a character in a movie. What the fuck are you talking about? And, like, as if, like, Samuel L. Jackson didn't play a prominent role in the original film, and Laura Dern wasn't like a badass feminist, leading lady in that first film. I don't think these people, like, remember what movies were like when they grew up. The coolest movie ever made when I was a kid was The Matrix, and Carrie-Anne Moss played, like, the dopest, most, like, the coolest, badass ninja warrior goddess, in that movie. And nobody in the 90s was like, oh God, why do they got to have a woman in the movie? It's just such, like, whiny baby shit in my mind. It's just like, there's nothing. There's nothing here. I don't know where the overcorrection is happening. I see racists being proudly, loudly dumb and ignorant and racist on the internet every single day. I see science denial just being spread rampantly, that people, and I don't see this as a reaction to our overcorrection. I just don't think it ever went away. And I think that, like, these people freak out anytime someone's just sort of like, hey, is it okay if one of the characters in my TV show is non-binary? And they're like, absolutely fucking not, you terrorist. And it's like, I just don't think that the overcorrection is really there. Personally,
yes, yeah, no, cool. That's great to hear. Thank you for explaining it. To your point as well, I have a small platform of people, and I often, it's around anti-theism, but I ensure that I try and communicate as much as possible, especially in the current state of things. That the nuance or distinction is needed between, as an example, what's in the Quran versus how people live their lives day to day and put food on the table. To your question, Forrest, prior, what the biggest example is, I don't know if it would be the biggest example, but I do have, and I hope it's okay that we're speaking about it, and I'm not trying to play dumb. I'm simply interested in refining some of these things, because I actually was a person who bought into a lot of this stuff prior to COVID, when it was really taking hold. And at that time, one of the biggest things was the rise of Jordan Peterson, who, to your point, Forrest, we don't know if he was ever smart, so to speak. But one of the things that gave him rise to power, this is a little bit of a sort of bait switch to your first question about, the cause of Trump's power, or what Trump's power has caused. But maybe it could be argued that, sorry, I shouldn't say maybe it could be argued. I will argue, just for the sake of it, that the political correctness that surrounded him, for some reason he was a front figure with, I think it was Prop 8 in Canada, where they made what is
Yeah,
it?
I know what you're talking about, Chad.
they broadened
I want to
they broadened
I
the
want to jump
definition
in
of
the,
hate.
yeah, I want to
Sure.
jump on this really quick because this is a fantastic example. What Jordan Peterson rose to prominence for was opposing like it was a law or whatever that was trying to, that in his words was going to mandate. It was going to mandate certain speech. It was going to compel speech, and he was just lying about what that law actually said and what that ordinance. It was just it was all a grift from the very beginning. Jordan Peterson pretended that he was not bigoted towards trans people. He came out and said, my issue is not about people who have identities that are different than mine or live their lives in ways that are different than I live my life. My issue is with compelled speech. And he dressed it up in this sort of guise of like, I think it's important that we allow people to speak in whatever way feels most honest and authentic to them, and we don't compel speech through the law. And he made it like this whole thing that he's not, it has nothing to do with trans people, even though everyone from the beginning was like, kind of seems like you're just trying to like mask your feelings about trans people. And then it turned out like he was just lying about what the law said at all. And he was just pretending that the law was like, we'll fire you and throw you in jail if you don't use people's preferred pronouns. And that's not what the law said. And from the beginning, it was another grift. It was more right-wing propaganda. Jordan Peterson has shown himself several times since then to be definitively a bigot towards trans people. Like he's shown himself again and again and again to be definitively bigoted toward gender diverse people. And he started off his career by being like, no, has nothing to do with that. I just think that we got to be careful about laws that control speech. He was lying about what the law said, and he was lying about his actual motivations for getting involved. It just has to do with the fact that he doesn't like trans people. That's it.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Just to piggyback on that is
good.
that like he's like I would agree mostly with that summary because like that really was the whole thing. It was just like, you can't force me to say anything I don't want to say. Okay. And it just became this thing for like this coded word for I just want to be hateful if I have to be, or if I want to be. Like I just don't want to. And no one disagrees that like the government shouldn't compel your speech in one way or another. Like everybody's down with free speech. But when it's framed in this dumbass way of like trans people are trying to take away your free speech, it just kind of became this political thing. And like now I genuinely don't understand how anybody who's ever seen the man debate can take him any kind of seriously. Like in his most recent appearance on Jubilee, I think it was, he couldn't even say that he was a Christian because he refuses to be pinned down on anything. And it's like, well, what is your definition of is? And what is your definition of Christian? What is your definition of belief? And like, you can literally go, so here's a quote from Jordan Peterson. Evil is the force that complements species specific possibility. If you think that's a real quote from Jordan Peterson, guess what? It worked. That's from wisdomofpeterson.com. It's a word salad generator that says dumb shit that sounds like him because he's so fucking bad at this. But like, yeah, I don't know, man. It's just what I think really works for him is when you have this kind of pseudo intellectual movement. Him, Ben Shapiro does the same thing. There's a Charlie Kirk largely did the same thing where you're almost entirely debating really young people with no experience in whatever area. You either do have training in this area, you either don't have any training in this area, or you have training in some other area and you're speaking way outside of your field, or you're speaking in such broad generalities that it really isn't useful at all. You don't have any interesting arguments that are any more interesting than anybody else's arguments about half the shit you're talking about, whatever. But you're known for just using pseudo-intellectual, babbly language, talking very fast, and posting short clips of talking to young people who you can brand as the other politically, and show that you are owning these people over and over, and that's your entire fucking brand. And then on top of that, your market, like your actual business model, is reaching out to lonely young men. That's really the biggest group. It's lonely, disenfranchised young men who feel that they don't have any power in this world and that they're not taken very seriously. They haven't gained any status yet. They haven't gained any credentials yet. They feel ostracized by their community because of, they're just going through late puberty, right? And they feel confused and weird and all these different things. And you reach out to those young men, and rather than offering a salve to them, rather than offering them a way to embrace the diversity around them and fit into the world and be useful in the world, you sell them their own hate, and you sell them their own fear, and you sell them their own impotence to change the world around them and make them feel more lonely, so that they come to you for more advice. And you tell them all you have to do is make your bed every morning. And all you have to do is just think about whatever and go with your gut feeling. And you tell them that your intuition is just as good as their PhD. And you tell them that their culture as a white, Western, Christian, blah, 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 is really something it's the fount from which all civilization has sprung, and it's dying and it needs defending. It is simultaneously the most powerful force for creation and hard work and goodness in the world, and also this delicate, fragile china pot that needs to be protected against the encroaching tides of critical thinking. Like, you have to defend it. And you sell them this narrative so that they feel simultaneously like victims and warriors. It's cult mentality, and it keeps them coming back. It keeps them desperate for your approval and your continued validation. And fuck, dude, that's what all these motherfuckers do. That's their whole job. And then they just have to invent terms. We were talking this whole time about woke. DEI is the new woke, and woke was the new CRT, and CRT was the new SJW, and SJW is the new politically correct, and all of those words just mean the N-word. That's what they all fucking mean. And like that's it's just dog whistle after dog whistle. And so you give them these strategies, you give them these talking points that just other people, and it isolates them and makes them feel more oppressed and more lonely and more violent and more revolutionary and more reactionary. And it makes you this figurehead in their fucking twisted worldview, and then you end up with a fucking groiper and nobody's happy. I hope that answers your question a little bit on like how these people get along, because it fucking sucks.
Yes, yeah, perpetual grifting of keeping people needing your product. It's pretty bad.
Especially
awesome.
young men.
Especially
really young men.
Yes, absolutely. It's very, very sad. Look, I appreciate your time. Some of the stuff you talk about there with Peterson and others like him promote makes me think of basically what Tony Robbins did, which was NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. And it's like, you got to make your bed in the morning. And it's like, well, cousins don't have a bed to make. Right? What are you talking about?
It's right. You got to rise and grind. That's all it is.
It's largely just a grift, right? It's grift culture. Like that's the kind of the problem with right-wing influencers and personalities in general, is that they have a really hard time being intellectually honest about their motivations and about just like their actual beliefs. They can't just like come out and say what it is that, like, it's like, but they'll get right up next to, like, if pushed hard enough, they'll get right up next to saying it. They'll get right up next to saying the quiet part out loud. And sometimes they do. Sometimes Elon Musk just stands on stage and does a sig heil for the entire world to see.
Yep.
And then some people go, oh, let's pretend like that didn't happen, but like, I think that's, well, and that's, I think that's the key to why they do what they do is like, on some level, they know that they're going to lose a lot of people, at least in the mainstream consciousness. They're going to lose potential converts. These young men that you're talking about that keep going right, they're going to lose them if they come out and they give the game away too quickly. It's a slow process of like slowly bringing you in until you're in those group chats that were like leaked to the young Republicans that were just saying all the quiet parts out loud. It's like, you've got to get pretty far down the pipeline to be in the secret behind closed doors. We can just say the real, what we actually think thing. But but also you can get pretty far down before you start posting like 1488 stuff on people's posts and trying to get away with your clever little 4chan Nazi memes. But I think it all comes from the same place of like a fundamental dishonesty. And I think that goes back to Forrest's original question of like, what would an overcorrection to the left really look like? I mean, like how could the left push things too far. And I think that, you know, there's obviously the right-wing nightmare version of it where it's this is a literal slogan in the United States right now, which shows you how fucking stupid our country has gotten, that everyone always says trans for everyone. Like, that's a thing that Trump says all the time. He's like, well, we got to get rid of this trans for everyone. And like, people parrot that. People are like, well, he's getting rid of trans for everyone. And it's like, what the fuck are you guys talking about? Like, that's, I guess, the right wing, like, scary version of it is like, they're going to make everyone trans. And it's like, that's not a thing. You can't do that. It's like when I was growing up, people would say that, that gay people were recruiting kids to be gay. And you'd have to explain to them, like, do you think you could just choose to switch who you're attracted to because you're being socially pressured to? Like, do you really think that's a serious concept?
That's what they say, though. I mean, they say that now. It's sort of like, oh, well, you think you're choosing to be gay because you're actually gay and choosing to be straight and living a straight life.
Right. I don't believe that. I just, my personal experience of life is I don't think I could get like pressured into just pretend. But also, I mean, I will say this: heteronormative culture is really good at pressuring queer people into pretending to be heteronormative. That is a thing that unfortunately happens a lot. So, you know, but I just, when I think about the thought experiment of like, what would the left accomplishing all of their goals look like? We're so far away from that. I mean, like right-wing fascism and authoritarianism has so much more mainstream power than any truly left-wing position in at least the United States of America, that we're so far away from it that it's like, I don't like, our overcorrection is like bringing things back to close to center, you know? And I don't really think, I don't think we've ever actually had the opportunity to go too far, but I would like to see what it would look like. I'd like to see I'd love to find out, okay, we socialismed too hard, or we feminismed too hard, but I don't think we have yet. I don't think we've gotten even close to pushing concepts of inclusivity and racial justice and, gender justice and sexuality justice. I don't think we've come close to pushing those concepts too far.
Sure. Yeah. No, I appreciate that. And I think the main things for me to take away is really just being, unfortunately, working hard and continue to work hard to sift through what is propaganda, because, as I say, pre-COVID, even me and all my friends, we've all kind of moved on from it, but we were all sort of biting on that apple, so to speak. We were all kind of like, this is ridiculous and stuff. And it's really about the retrospective understanding about the media and PR and algorithms, to sort of understand why that was so prolific and why it took hold. I do want to say as well, on the comment of Jordan Peterson, the best eye opener I had for him, if anyone would like to see, is the debate with Matt Dillahunty, where he essentially mimics Cassie Newman in the exact way that everyone thought he was amazing for owning her. With it's pretty hard to watch, actually, because for me it was the start of seeing how ridiculous he is. And last thing, I guess, with respect to young men who are in trouble and need help and all that, I hope I can be a voice one day, a part of that conversation, to show that it's fine to be progressive and liberal, and it's, or should I say, it's good. And it's good to care about human rights, trans rights, especially at the current moment, because it's so contentious. And you can lift weights, I lift weights, and you can be a normal person and go to work and say hi to everyone, and maybe some things will be out of the norm. But
there are legitimate health benefits. Yeah. There are legitimate health benefits to hitting the gym and lifting heavy and doing cool stuff. And there are legitimate health benefits to reaching out to your community and embracing people that you don't fully understand and trying to learn about them and understand them better, and letting more people into your life and making better, more diverse friends, and also reading more books, and also maybe, keeping your house tidy as best you can, as long as you're able to. And none of those things require you to have some fucking essentially a racist motivational speaker to fucking tell you how to do it, because that's really what these folks boil down to. So with that, Chad, it's been a great conversation. I feel like we've come a long way. Do you have anything else for us at the very end before we move on to our last call of the night?
No, thank you for educating me. Thank you for your time, and thank you for what you do. I really love it.
Thank you for listening. I really appreciate the conversation. You were an awesome caller. I thank you very much for listening to us ramble and hearing what we had to say and whatnot. That was really cool of you.
Not at all. Thanks, guys. See you.
Thanks,
Later.
Chad. Boy, this last one's going to be a doozy, isn't it? Because if it's legit, it's intense.
We dropped so while we were on the call, we didn't drop these calls, but we had two other callers that were waiting for a while and they both hung up. You'll be devastated to know that we lost the call about eugenics, and Andrew from New Jersey called in as well to tell us more about why fascism is good and why he's a sociopath and doesn't think that anybody who doesn't look like him should have rights, I guess, or whatever the fuck else Andrew had to say this time. Missed out, however will we go on. But instead, we've got this, our last call of the night, who is Mark, who wants to say that you will have... Sorry, I'm just going to read this out loud. You have to follow the rules of God or you will die. What does that mean? We all want to know. Mark, you're on the line with Forrest and Austin. How are you doing today?
Can you hear me?
What's up,
Yes,
Mark?
I can.
Oh, okay, great. So, this is because I think I saw a show on YouTube about, whether or not you have to follow the rules of God or you should, or something along those lines. So I'm calling in on that topic. And first, I think it's important that we define God, right?
Okay.
Okay.
Sure.
What God do you believe in?
What God, or what's your definition of God?
So it's a matter of, whether or not humans are the highest form of power, if there's something maybe a little bit sort of beyond us in the universe or something to that end.
Okay.
What do you mean by power?
Would you agree
Are you using
that
power like physics term?
Like a what term?
Like a physics term?
Oh, it could be, yeah. So, entropy, for example, or like a universal order or something along those lines. So,
Well, power isn't anything to do with entropy. It's just work over time.
That powers work over time?
That's the physics definition. Yeah, P equals W over T.
Oh, okay.
I'm looking up other formulas because there may be other ways to negotiate that.
Okay. Well, if for example,
you can also do it as force times velocity.
That humans are the highest form is a little arrogant in that sense, right? So there should be something maybe universal that is sort of beyond human control or human sort of capacity, correct?
Well, literally anything that's like bigger than a human can do more work in less time and then give you a bigger number for power. So like an atomic bomb is doing a whole hell of a lot of work in a very little bit of time. So it is effectively making more power than any human ever could. I don't think that's what you mean by God, though, because if you just ask me, are humans the most powerful thing in the universe? I'm going to say, obviously not. But I also still don't believe in a God. The person in chat saying PV equals NRT.
Sort of,
that's the ideal gas law. Get that out of here.
Exactly, but that's sort of beyond biology as well, right? So like there are sort of
the ideal gas law is chemistry,
but that are beyond biology.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's important to remember that biology works with all of the forces of nature. No part of biology goes outside of the boundaries of chemistry or physics.
Right. So if, for example, if there was a biological form that tried to do that, you might end up dying, right? For example, if you tried to overcome the law of gravity from a high building and jumped and tried to defeat gravity, you will end up dying.
Unless you have wings.
Are you saying, or a parachute?
Right.
Are you saying that? So you're just saying God is just like laws, inherent laws of physics that like we cannot on our own power, unassisted by technology, overcome? Is that what you're saying God is?
Well, I think that's, yeah, I mean, that could be something to that effect, or worded that way. I mean, you worded it that way just now. Another example could be, two objects cannot share the same time and space. So if you try to do that with another object at a high rate of speed, for example, or high velocity, you will end up crashing and hurting yourself or dying in that respect. So if you consider, what we say, the word God is some sort of higher force that by which, biological beings must work within, and you try to disobey those, you end up hurting yourself.
So
Okay, so I mean, so you're just saying if we just change God to like physics, like you said, if you disobey the law of God, you will die, and if we just change it to like if you disobey the laws of physics, you will die, and sure, I guess we can agree to that. I guess we can be like, yeah, sure.
Okay.
Well, the issue I have is that like what you're effectively giving us here, Mark, is just what you're effectively giving us here, Mark, is just what we would call Spinoza's God, is what Einstein talked about when Einstein talked about God doesn't play dice and all these things. He wasn't talking about like a bearded man in the sky. He was talking about the laws of the universe. He was using God as a poetic way of saying just the nature of reality. And what I'm hung up on here is, number one, why call that God then? That's not an intelligent entity. That isn't something that I need to pray to. It just is the way the universe works. It doesn't have any mind or anything like that or any willpower. And secondly, it's not good enough to say, if you try to go against the laws of physics, you'll die. I can try to go against the laws of physics right now. Nothing's going to happen. You can't go against the laws of physics. That's how they work. So like, nothing in biology ever has violated any fundamental law of chemistry or physics ever. And I could try to do it at this very moment. I just did. It didn't work. And so, like, I was not able to do any chemical reactions that were enthalpically unfavorable in this moment.
Other circumstances, and the attempts to do so could result in negative consequences. So I think for the
attempts to do things. The attempts to do things that follow the laws of physics can also lead to equally negative consequences. What's the point?
Agreed. Well, I think the point is, if you're trying to understand people on a sort of larger level, instead of having arguments where you say your God does this and I disagree, so we're going to have this loud argument over and over again and not come to any real conclusion at the end of it. Instead, say, okay, well, if we agree that there is this higher sort of form of power, and we can all agree that something like that exists, and in the case of what we're talking about, Spinoza's God, I'm not familiar with that, or what someone else might call the Christian God or the Muslim God, having the argument of, well, what are the sort of rules that you think they are having, and trying to come to an understanding why they believe that way, and then maybe that would be a better methodology of trying to convince them to not be so hardline. Because I think that sometimes when we go on TV and call people idiots and call them stupid, I don't really necessarily agree that that's the best way of convincing someone to change their beliefs.
We're not,
because I think,
just to be clear, we're not on shows like this. On shows like this, we do sometimes call people stupid. I try not to too often, but it does happen. And we're often not trying to convince the person on the call. Generally speaking, the person on the call is dug in, and they're defending their faith. What we're talking to, the people we're really talking to, the people we're really working for, are the people in the audience who are on the fence, who are looking for good arguments for their religion and not finding any, and are looking for bad arguments for atheism and not finding any. Like, those are the people we're reaching out to. And that's why we get calls all the time, people saying, we watched this show for a little while and now I'm no longer Christian. And like, that's who we're trying to find. We very, very, very rarely get a caller who says, you know what, you're right, I guess God isn't real. That has happened before, but it's very rare. Much more often, hey, I came to this channel because I was a staunch Christian and I wanted to see why atheists were so stupid. Turns out you guys made good arguments and I've yet to find an argument that sails with you. So like, that's who we're talking to.
Okay. So I had a bet with my wife that I could convince you of at least a part of my argument. Was I successful? Did I win the bet?
I don't think so. Let me just recite what I think your argument is that
Okay.
God is just another term for the laws of nature, and attempting to violate the laws of nature is potentially lethal. Therefore, you must follow God. Is that a fair summary of what you're saying? Because that's pretty much what I've been picking up.
So yeah, I would say that's a fairly decent summary.
Okay, yeah, I would say that is not a convincing argument, because calling the laws of nature God is kind of silly and redundant and doesn't serve any purpose. In fact, I think it's very counterintuitive to education as a whole, especially science education, and that you simply cannot violate the laws of nature. So attempting to do so really, I don't think, is correlated too strongly with dying. And you can die every single thing that has ever died has done so while following the laws of nature. Therefore, the argument really doesn't carry any water. It doesn't do anything for me.
Yeah, and also
okay.
I would say another problem with the argument is that you're just sort of, rather than actually, providing us evidence for a God that you believe in and getting us to concede something about that God, you're just sort of using the word God in place of something else. It's like if I just said, hey, let's just, for the sake of this argument, let's just say that my gun and this bullet are God, and that if you don't respect this gun and this bullet, and you don't put on a bulletproof vest, and I shoot you, you're gonna die. Like, you didn't respect God,
well, no,
you died.
I don't
And
think
it's like,
that way.
it's like,
I
well,
think if you
cool. I
define
guess
God,
I guess we get.
Yeah.
People define God any way they want to. So in this definition, it's irrevocable laws of the cosmos you cannot
I get it.
obey.
I get it.
It sounds
I
like
get
more
it.
real than
Yeah.
the other gods that anyone
It
else.
sounds like
Right,
you're just trying.
God. In fact, I would say it's even more real.
Mark, I get it. You're trying to just offer up a different definition of God so that you can get us to agree with you. My point is, that's the problem with the argument, is that you can't just sort of go well, God is this bowling ball that I'm going to drop on your face, and if you if the bowling ball is going to crush your skull, so is the bowling ball real or not? And we're like, I agree the bowling ball's real. And it's like, but you also agreed that we're going to call the bowling ball God. So therefore you said God is real. And it's just sort of like a word game that's like, cool, we can call anything God, I guess.
You're defining God into existence rather than actually finding evidence for it. Yes.
Is
extremely
that really
yes.
different than what other theists are doing?
Very, very yes.
Yeah.
As someone who talks to several theists every week on shows like this, yes, that is extremely different from what other theists are doing. Let me ask you, Mark, is this the reason why you believe in a God? Are you a theist because you just equate God to the laws of nature?
If I would say you could call me a theist if you define God as a sort of irrevocable force beyond human capacity.
Okay, does this irrevocable force have a mind?
Unlikely.
Okay, so then it's not actually so then it's not an intelligent thinking agent with a will and a plan that does things on purpose. You are just relabeling the laws of nature as God, which isn't, if you talk to, I'm going to just throw out a number here, but it is a hyperbolic number, but it's reasonable. 99% of every theist in the world guarantee you, if they talk about God, they're not talking about just the amorphous laws of nature without a mind. They're talking about an entity, a thing, a guy that has a mind and has will and has powers and has a design for the universe and that does things on purpose and that is intercessory in our lives and that can suspend the laws of nature and change the laws of nature at his leisure and probably uses he, him pronouns. That's who everybody else is talking about when they talk about a God. So, if you're using this kind of just nebulous, quasi-equivocation version of God, all you're doing is just defining God into existence. You're just deciding to call a thing God that we all know exists, and it's not a God. It's just a thing. And you're slapping a label of God on it. You're giving it a name rather than actually finding a thing worthy of being called a God. So I would argue that you are an atheist.
Well, I mean,
sir.
I'm not going to take responsibility for the arguments of theists, but I would say that, you know, what you've just defined as what I did on the call, I find slivers of that in pretty much all of the other arguments. Because when you talk to someone about actions that are taken or not taken in the Bible, then or other books, they will challenge you on your interpretation of that. Right?
By the way,
I see that on the show.
By the way, the Bible is full of examples of people defying the laws of nature. So if nature is your, standard of what God is, I agree with Forrest that like traditionally we're talking to people who believe in an anthropomorphic God that is like a person or a personage or a humanoid like entity that has its own intelligence and its own agenda and motivations. You're just more talking about kind of like the larger structure of the physical universe we find ourselves in, and the fact that, like, you know, if you're in the way of a rolling rock and it rolls over you, you're going to die. And it's like, sure, okay, but that's not necessarily what we're like talking about on this show.
Well, yeah, maybe
I think a great example. I think a great example of what we're talking about here is literally all Christians. Like I would say literally all Christians, the vast preponderance of Christians, because there are over 40,000 denominations of Christianity, but I would say the vast preponderance of them all agree that Jesus is God and that he came to earth in human form and died for our sins to absolve us of our wrongdoings, and that through that action, we now get to go to heaven if we believe in him and confess that he is king and all these, that whole central doctrine of the death and resurrection and sacrifice of Jesus Christ goes against the God concept that you are claiming is fundamental to most theistic belief. That is intercessory suspension of the laws of nature. That is talking about dimensions outside of our own. That is talking about a concept of sin, which is some sort of tallying of mortal deeds that is bearing on our souls, which are also something that go outside of the realms of physical reality. Like, all of that goes well beyond, well, I mean, gravity's a thing, and there's this stuff called electromagnetism. Like, none of that is physics. None of that is chemistry. None of that is math. That is supernatural. And like, if you think that Christianity isn't theism, I don't know what to tell you.
Right. So yeah, I think that, you know, for people on that spectrum, they're a little bit further off to a different direction. But anyway, I was just trying to introduce a new thought into the show.
It's not a new one. It's not a new thought, and it isn't really a God. You just picked a thing and called it God, and it doesn't deserve the title God because it doesn't do any of the things that anybody who believes in a God would likely say a God is or does.
Okay. Well, other than Spinoza.
Other than Einstein, Spinoza, who again were using that term poetically. They did not actually believe in a real thing called a God. They used the word God poetically to describe the laws of the universe in a way that was easily understandable. In the same way that we use terms like mitochondrial Eve and Y chromosomal Adam. We're not talking about one individual person who was actually named Adam and Eve that lived at the same time, that were the first humans, anything like that. None of that. We're just calling back to one place where we get a particular gene from either a male or a female.
Yeah, I do this same thing.
I group with Spinoza and Einstein, and that's a pretty good group to be grouped in with.
Yeah, cool. If
you're not,
I have no problem.
You're not grouping yourself in there if you're a theist.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't say that it's.
You put me in the group with Spinoza and Einstein, which is the smartest person to ever live. So I'm in good company.
No, I didn't.
Listen,
I just want to be clear. Right, I didn't.
But he also was very specific that like those people were not theists in the way that you presumably are. It's fine if you're not, though. If you just like to use the word God to mean something other than like an anthropomorphic space wizard that created the universe and that dictates over Earth and controls, you know, like has like a tally on human morality and whatever. That's fine. You know, I've talked about it on this show several times that like I sort of do a no thing for atheists. I participate in 12-step work because I'm a recovering addict, and they use the God word a lot in those programs. And I was really afraid of it when I first got into it because I was like, I don't want anyone to have a problem with the fact that I'm an atheist. And people kept telling me, they were like, it's fine, you can be an atheist here. And I was like, I don't know. And here I am 7 years later, and like no one cares because the literature just says whatever the word God wants, whatever you want that word to mean, you can have it mean that. If you want that word to mean Jesus Christ, it can mean that to you. It doesn't have to. You get like, and that was an atheist who was a member of the group in the 1950s who told them, you guys should put in your literature that everybody gets to define this word on their own so that you can make room for people like me. Because I like what you guys are doing and I would like to be here. And they went, okay. And they listened to him. And now I have tons of atheist friends who I go to meetings with, and we go to like secular meetings where it's like specifically only atheists that go to those meetings, and we just have our own little different definition of that word when it comes up in the literature. And what's cool is the literature says we're allowed to do that, so it's not like we're just like bending it to be something else. It's like very specifically it says you can think of God, like if God to you is the ocean, cool, God is the ocean. If God to you is the sun, cool, God is the sun, as long as you're not actually having like some sort of supernatural belief that God, like the sun is like alive and that it, you know, whatever. But it's like, yeah, like I do the same thing, but I don't call myself a theist. I'm still an atheist. Like I still don't believe in an anthropomorphic agent that created the universe and watches people masturbate and stuff like that.
Well,
you know,
I don't think a sensible person believes in that kind of thing. But
oh, come on.
But no,
you know that a lot of theists.
I'm happy.
Billions of people do, and a lot of them are otherwise sensible.
Yeah.
But I agree with that. But I'm going to take the W on this one because I did get put into a group with Spinoza and Einstein, and my wife rarely does.
No, you
that.
didn't. I can't stress enough. No, you did not. What I keep trying to explain to you is
I didn't put me in the group. I was put in the group.
Yeah, no, you were not. I can't stress enough. No, you were not. I compared what you were doing to what they were doing, and that was news to you. And then I let you know that the way you are using the term is going beyond that and is really not useful.
I don't know.
And also, you said initially that the whole bet, you also, yeah, and that's probably why you believe the silly shit that you believe, because you act like that. But like just to be clear, you also said that the whole point of this was to win a bet to say that you could get me to believe a thing, and you have failed at that as well. So like, I don't know what W you're taking. Maybe the W is also like your God. It's completely faith-based.
No.
Anyway, we're going to move on to the end of the show because this is weird, and it's really just not going anywhere. But say hi to your wife for me, Mark. Take care.
Tell your wife that you totally owned us, Mark. You got us. The show's over now.
Yeah.
You got us. That was cool.
Mm. Yeah, we had nothing left in the tank. We got our floors wiped by that one guy who didn't know what the fuck a woman was, and now we got Mark in here, and we have no choice but to end the show in disgrace
and humiliation. Wolf. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What a show.
Yeah. You know, I mean, I actually listen, there's part of me that's kind of like, we were talking at the beginning of the show about how we don't just want to do the same old conversations with conservative Christians that like where you're just taught. And I think that we sort of got into that with Chad a little bit. Like we got to at least get into like more of the nuance of like, it was almost like talking to a progressive who's struggling with some tenets of progressive thought and being like, oh, seeing if we can help you along. And I think that was what the idea of the conversation with John was supposed to be. But then John proved himself to really have the like ideological rigidity that a conservative Christian would have anyway, where like he could not get past the idea of like more than two categories, just like more than two things. Like he just couldn't get past it. Yeah.
Yeah, it just sucked. And like, there's that whole thing still pisses me off because, like, man, there was a lot that we could have talked about and we didn't get any of it. It reminded me a lot of the Ulrich call from a little while ago. There was a call with me and Morticia on where Ulrich called in, was saying the same thing. Only he was honest from the beginning, where his entire scientific expertise was, I just look around and this is what I see, and that's it, and that's all I need. And like, I wish we would have opened with that earlier.
You don't see all the people who are living their life as trans people. You don't see them. You don't see the intersex people out there. Bizarrely enough, you aren't X-raying and CT scanning and karyotyping and fucking doing pelvic exams on every fucking person you come across. Bizarre. Who knew? Yeah.
Turns out this whole gender thing's kind of social, unless we just decide it isn't. Ugh.
I do think that some people live in an area. When I use that example of like, when you observe people, do they seem to be one of two kinds? And I do think that some people might live in an area where, like, generally, yes. Like, if you live in like a rural and conservative enough area, it's like, yeah, like the guys are all like one guy and the girls are all like one girl. It's just like, and they're all that way, you know? And so it's like, maybe.
I wish we could have dug into that more. I really do. I don't think that he was honest enough to do it. But at this point, the horse remains dead. With that, y'all, that's the end of our show. Austin, do you have anything before we wrap up? Anything you want to say at the end here?
I don't know. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, you freaks. Okay, I'm on here. You're watching me. I'll go over there. There's more content over there.
Do that, and then also do the thing with me too, and everybody else. Subscribe to all the people. Thank you so much to Luxander for producing tonight. Thank you so much to Stephanie for call screening tonight. Thank you to our mods in chat, even the ones that sucked. Thank you to our callers, even the ones that sucked. The mods are great. The people in chat, the ones that sucked, and the callers that sucked. Thank you for watching. Have an awesome rest of your day and never stop learning. Bye.